You are listening to episode 205 of Mitolife Radio. I'm your host, Matt Blackburn. Happy New Year. Today, I'm interviewing Jonathan Pantalis of Living Ratio. Jonathan's been a friend of mine for several years, and we bonded around our interest in longevity and how to live a vibrant, long life. He's a fellow experimenter like myself, so he's tried so many different diets, protocols, supplements, and it's just always so much fun to speak with him and exchange notes. It's really difficult now to find people in the natural health world that aren't stuck in their ways and that are open to experimentation. So in this interview, he shares his recent experimentation with amino acid supplements, the 4 shakes that he has every day, 2 protein shakes and 2 fiber shakes, and what go into those, how many grams of protein he aims to hit by dinner time, which meal he skips every day. Yes, he is keto and an intermittent faster. He talks about the importance of connecting with others and the dangers of overworking. We talk about conventional toilet paper and why you want to avoid that, artificial intelligence, why you might want to get a lockbox for your phone and the brand that he uses for that, and of course, adaptogens. So all of the herbs that go into his cacao calm product. And I ask him listener questions about various different herbs, testosterone boosting herbs, the best ones for hormone issues, rhodiola, what herbs are a must-have in the cabinet, which herbs are the easiest to grow at home, and a lot more. So enjoy the show. Here is Jonathan Pantalis. All right, first show of the year. Jonathan Pantalis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. It's great talking to you. It's been a very long time.
It has. Yeah. We have a long history of hanging out in Southern California, Northern California. And you've always been inspiring to me with all the experimentation that you've done. We're very similar with that. Just always researching and trying different things. Just been really fun to watch your journey.
Yeah, same. I think that's what we bonded on originally, was just like taking like way too much of different supplements, right? Just like experimenting and, just going hard, trying to figure it out, right? Like trying to figure out what works, right? We've both been through like so many diets and so many different phases, and it's pretty cool, like actually, to come full circle, right? Like I think we both like changed and gotten less extreme and different ways. It's cool.
Yeah, I think we kind of connected on the anti-aging longevity thing, right?
Yep. I was a vegan then. I was doing like the high enzyme raw vegan type of approach.
Yeah,
it seemed like it was working for me for a while.
Right. Did you get into the Life Regenerator and Lou Corona? That was kind of my introduction.
I think what got me into it was, I want to say Hippocrates stuff. I think it was like Hippocrates, and then of course inevitably led to David Wolf. Like a lot of roads led there, and then Life Regenerator, juicing, all of that. Like I've followed everyone. It's interesting because I've connected with some of those people via Sedona. So now that I live in Arizona, so it's funny. Like most of the big raw foodie people are have chilled out in some way. I don't know. It's an interesting diet, right? Because it's like people get really healthy, like they feel really good on it, and then they crash at some point, or they don't crash. I didn't really crash. I think I crashed after, and now it was more like, I think it just created, had I stayed on it, there would have been problems. But like, I think that like it created deficiencies I wasn't aware of, and then they didn't hit me until later. Like,
right.
I think we go out of balance, like if we go into any extreme, right? If you ate all carnivore for forever, something's going to happen, right? Because we need carbs. We do. We totally do. Coming from someone who has keto chocolate, right? We do need carbs because amino acid transport is dependent on carbohydrates. Like we don't get all those like neurotransmitter benefiting amino acids without carbs. And it doesn't really make sense. Like if you're trying to be like live in the natural way, like, or just live in the optimal way, it doesn't really make sense to be like pounding amino acid powders as a supplement to, you know, I don't know, like to the deficiencies that we get like from like the lack of just like an essential food, right?
You were doing like the keto vegan diet, right? Because there's all these different variations. Like I did, you probably did them all. I did fruitarian pretty hard for, I don't know, 6 months to a year or something like that, 2 years. But you were doing like low carb veganism, right? Like more greens and.
Yeah, I had it down where I was literally, and I probably was not optimizing my protein properly, probably not optimizing a lot of things, but I was doing keto vegan, you know, because I was really convinced that most of my problems are based in, you know, Candida, yeast infection, stuff like that. I was very much trying to like not feed anything that could feed on sugars. And I do believe that helped me. I think that's actually an interesting thing. Like, I think abstaining from major food groups, this is a thought that I've had. Like, maybe there is a benefit to abstaining from any major food group for a period of time to help reset whatever bacteria feeds on that, right? Because like everything, fats, carbs, proteins, something helps digest that. Something in our gut microbiome, directly or indirectly, is assisting in that digestion. And if we abstain from one of those things for a period of time, maybe a reset occurs, you know? I think naturally we did that, right? Certain phases, we only had access to fruit. Sometimes we only had access to literally just meat, you know, slaughter an animal, whatever. We had access to meat, you know, think thousands of years ago, right? So maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's the way it was. And now, of course, we have access to whatever, and that creates its own set of problems, right?
That's an interesting theory. Yeah, I interviewed Dr. Carolyn Dean, you know, that wrote the Magnesium Miracle and popularized magnesium supplementation. And she's really big into yeast overgrowth and keeping that in check. And it's so interesting because you have these extreme beliefs where it's kind of like polar opposites. It's like everyone has yeast overgrowth and the solution is to cut out all sugar completely, all, you know, not only refined sugar, but all, you know, lower your carbohydrate intake to almost zero. But then you have the other people saying that you want to feed the Candida sugar or else it gets aggressive and spreads throughout the body. I don't know how popular that second idea is, but I've noticed there's like all these theories about it, of Candida and yeast overgrowth.
Yeah, that's literally what the fruitarians would say, right? Like you have to eat the fruit. It's actually everything else besides fruit that you're eating that causes the Candida to grow. It's better to just eat lots of sugar. Like that was, for sure the theory. But I think that for myself, just for my own anecdotal, like self research, like that there was a tremendous benefit that was life altering to abstaining from the carbs and sugars for a period of time. I think that it definitely caused some sort of reset in my system, and it was miserable. Like it was like, I always struggled with like fatigue, energy, depression, like all of those things, like from probably like, I guess like maybe like early teenage years through, you know, my early 20s. Like I really, really struggled with those things. And then I, you know, went through all these extreme diets to try to figure it out because I hit a point where I was like, I can't live this way anymore. I'm miserable. I'm depressed. Right. And I just was lucky enough to have the idea that maybe food has something to do with it because I was never exposed to nutrition or diet or health in any way. So I just really got lucky, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I think that had a profound benefit for me. I think sometimes it's what we eliminate and then sometimes it's what we add in, right? It's hard to know it's working when you're doing so many different things at once, though. That's just, I know a lot of people are. So now I think what I'm adding in is benefiting me more than what I'm taking out. But for a long time, I was detoxing to get better, eliminating, right? Abstaining. And now I think it's more about like rebuilding. And maybe some people need to build before they eliminate. I think everybody has a different path, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever take turpentine?
Yeah. 100%. I didn't notice much from it, honestly.
Wow. I got really loopy. It was, I mean, euphoric is more of a accurate description. I had a huge wave of euphoria after taking it. I don't know what caused it.
I did actually find an old medical encyclopedia from the 1800s that was legit in an antique store, and it had detailed like protocols for turpentine.
Wow.
It was really interesting. I wish I would have bought the book. It was like $600 at the time. I couldn't afford it. And the protocol though was turpentine and honey, not turpentine and sugar cubes. Everyone does, like, they think the classic way is sugar cubes. That was turpentine and honey. I don't remember the ratios. I don't remember anything about it. I'm not here to give advice on how to take it, but you know, I didn't notice much from it, but I think I had already taken so many like massive amounts of extreme, like wormwood, black walnut, all the stuff. So I think at that point I had, carpet bombed and, nuked my entire system enough that like just about anything I took wasn't like that much more extreme,
Have you heard of, or did you ever use S. boulardii to help with that? Or
no,
Saccharomyces boulardii. It's like that yeast. They sell it in a capsuled form, but it's a transient organism, so it just goes through your intestinal tract, and it supposedly will help with yeast overgrowth, because basically it's a form of yeast, so it'll like outcompete or strip them out. I've been taking handfuls just as an experiment, because everything I've read about it is that it's safe. I'm not recommending it to everybody.
Right.
But,
this is literally just, what we do to ourselves for our own experimentation, not medical advice. Right. but that's interesting. Have you noticed anything from it?
Definitely increased digestion, but going back to what you said a few minutes ago, that it's hard to, I think my problem, I don't know if you share this, is we add in so many new things at once where it's not really a scientific way of doing things, because you can't really pinpoint what's doing what, So, I started like fermented noni tonic at the same time I added those in. So it's like, what's
yeah. How do you know? Do you know? Noni's interesting. I used to drink a lot of that. Is it the Crucial 4 stuff? They still sell that? Is that where you got it?
I like the Shen Blossom. They're both great. Crucial 4, I think, adds turmeric and other stuff. Shen Blossoms, I like it just because it's like just fermented noni, and that's noni. It. Mm-hmm.
Crazy. I don't think they sold it online, Crucial 4, when I used to take it. They used to just Charles just give me like this jar.
It's great stuff. Yeah.
Stuff, It was really good. Yeah, it's really good. I like noni's another one of those ones where like people like rave about it, but I never noticed much from it.
Interesting. Yeah. For me, it just feels like very, it's hard to describe, just like refreshing. Like, especially if I had been fasted for a while and I just do one shot glass full, I just feel like a refreshed feeling. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. So going back to your journey. So I think I remember you used to do heavy salads when I visited your Hobbit house. David and I called it up in NorCal, your old Hobbit. I can remember you making these raw kind of bowls every night, right?
A lot of shredded carrots, in the evening. I would do lots of like fresh greens. I had my own garden, right? So that was, that's another interesting thing. I think that we have yet to tap into the research. What happens when you just eat a bunch of different leafy greens, right? That are just a variety of different fibers. It's not about eating volume. It's about just getting those little prebiotic fibers from a variety of different vegetables. That probably was like some of the best my digestion was when I was doing that in moderation. There's a little bit of veggies in there, but yeah, that was my diet. It was like salad based and then liquids. Like I'd make different like raw soups, salads, and that was how I lived. I felt a lot of energy because my body probably didn't have to work that hard. Probably had enzymes just flooding in my system. I felt great for a long time. Mm-hmm. It was interesting when I stepped down from the raw veganism. It wasn't really because I was feeling bad. It was because I went through some stuff and I wanted warmth and comfort. Mm-hmm. That Hobbit house, as it burned down in a fire, and I didn't realize at the time how much it affected me, but it affected me a lot. Mm-hmm. Those sort of traumatic events can certainly change what you prioritize, like big time.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's like all the memories and just the energy you put into that, and then it literally physically burns down. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. It was wild, And I was a very big believer in veganism. I thought there was a way to do veganism and make it healthy and make it work with the right supplementation. Mm-hmm. And I really tried. I really, really tried. But, once I transitioned to like cooked vegan diet, like, my girlfriend at the time, she was very vegan and she was ethical vegan. So, she didn't, whether for health or not, like, it's actually kind of funny. I ran into her like a few weeks ago, like random. I don't even live in Northern California anymore. And she's like, yeah, she basically said like, yeah, being vegan is like destroying my health, but like, I just care about the ethics like too much.
Wow.
She literally admitted like, hey, I don't think it is healthy for me anymore, but like, I just don't want to eat the animals,
Well, do you think people like her can do it if they, take the like essential amino acid tablets, which I still take? I took some this morning, like, take like 30 a day or 40 a day. Like, I mean, it's an expensive way to live for sure, but to be reliant on like strategic supplements, I think it's possible. Is it practical? Should people do it? Is a debate, but
yeah, I think it is possible, but I really did all those things and still felt like I was getting weaker over time. I don't know. Like, I know there's a ton of stories of that where people were like so committed to veganism and they had unlimited budget to buy whatever supplement they wanted. And still eventually they hit a wall,
Right. Yeah. Cause I guess there might be some unknown stuff like we know like things like zinc or selenium or I don't know, certain things are harder to get.
Yeah. And there's no understanding of like, okay, we could put all these things in isolated form into we could take every element of meat and isolate it and put it into a, smoothie.
Beyond Meat burger or something.
Right. And it's still not necessarily going to have the same like effect over time. I don't know what it is, I really don't know what it is because, for myself, like, yeah, I mean, I still have a difficulty with the idea that, we got to kill other beings to eat. Like, I don't love it. It seems pretty messed up in a way, but also we're here on this planet, right? We're a part of an ecosystem of like beings eating beings. And it's like, if our brain isn't working, like for me, my main push to start eating red meat was because I was eating fish and I got, over elevated mercury. Right. So, and then once I started doing that, my mental health dramatically improved. And so I stayed on it because I realized there was something in there. I don't know what it was. Even, my labs looked good. I got blood work done and that was before I went on meat. Everything looked okay. Right. But that's the story of a lot of people, right? Everything looks fine. I don't know why you're tired. I don't know why you feel sick or sluggish or depressed. Like, we know, you and I know it's not like an antidepressant deficiency or, Adderall deficiency. Right. But, that's what it's interesting because, now that I'm more removed from the health world, I see how much society depends on these things, right? Like, I know a lot of people that take, they're taking copious amounts of Adderall and they eat like, carnivore or whatever diet, but the only way they're able to do what they supposedly need to do is like taking stimulants. And it's like, it's pretty wild. But
I think Tide Pods are the way to go. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I haven't tried that one yet, but I'll have to report back if you
mix turpentine with it. Yeah.
You got to put the turpentine on the powder, and then.
I was at Walmart or one of those stores the other day last week, and I saw they had it behind the locked glass, the Tide Pods. I'm like, wow, if this isn't indication of where we're at as a society.
I've never seen that. That's crazy. That's that to me is also interesting because, I was living for 10 years, almost 9.5 years. I was living in hippie Northern California where everybody uses unscented laundry detergent and, reusable toilet paper and, whatever. Like, it's just like everybody's in their, their little communes and their hobbit holes or whatever. And now I live out here where, people like use like normal cleaning products and like dryer sheets and stuff like or plugins. Like one of my best friends, like she uses the air wicks in her apartment. It's like when you're in this health world, it's like it's so normal to not see any of that ever, right? Like I haven't seen that in like a decade. And then like being exposed to like what's really going on, and it's like then you see people that they're having health problems. My friend, she has like a bunch of health problems, and it's like. So to you and I, it's like obvious, right? It's like you're literally bathing in, you're like this thing holds like you're replenishing this thing. You have 2 in your house. You're literally dispensing like probably like a few tablespoons of like miscellaneous endocrine disrupting chemicals into your air, and you're breathing it, it's getting on your skin every single day.
Yeah.
And you have health problems. Like it's kind of obvious to us, but you know, there's so many people like still that are like, well, like, why would they sell it if it's, you know, it's got to be something else? Well, my doctor hasn't told me that it's bad. Like, I'm going to wait to talk to the specialist. It's like, right. You know, it's like those little things, right? Because like I said, like sometimes it's elimination, sometimes it's addiction, right? You know, sometimes it's just getting one of those things out of your, like, you know, I lived in an apartment that had mold, you know, was having tons of health problems. Once I got out of there, I went from taking like 20 different supplements a day to like 2 and felt tremendously better. In that case, it was a matter of elimination, right? But sometimes it's like recently I was, you know, just trying to optimize my protein intake, and I started really focusing on that. And I went from, you know, switching up amino acids, supplementing certain amino acids like carnitine, and wow, like now I feel dramatically better. Like better, some of the best I've felt mentally in a very long time, like just, you know, mental clarity, cognition, everything. And that was a matter of addition, right? So sometimes it goes either way.
Yeah. Yeah. So many little roads I want to go down with you. Definitely want to talk about your mold and mercury experience and aminos. But before we get into that, you mentioned like conventional toilet paper. And I know we both used or are aware of Robert Cassar and
using rags.
Right. Yeah. That was one of my favorite things I learned. I never did that because I was living with my parents when I watched that video from him. But he was, I think this was like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something, 8 years ago.
All I can see in my head is like that thumbnail, that one, the baking soda in your butt for like gut health or something. He's like, he's doing a headstand.
Well, I mean, this is like the poor man's way of doing a bidet. It was like, you literally get like cloths. And I think he was like, dip it in water, and like, who wants to share a washing machine with you if you're using that to wipe your bottom after you go number 2?
No.
And then I learned about the bidet.
I'd be burning it.
Right. Right. So my strategy now is to use the bidet, which there's no going back, plus bamboo toilet paper. And I just need like a couple, you know, whatever squares or whatever. So it's, I mean, I think a lot of the cases, right. I think a lot of the cases of prostate cancer, and he made that point, are from the phthalates in the toilet paper, right? Because prostate cancer is like an epidemic. It's right there. So
yeah, if you look at that, that really soft, the ultra soft toilet paper, if you just like rip it in, like if you hold it up to light and just like rip it, you can see all the dust. Like that stuff puts off so many like little microparticles. Like you can just see it. Wow. And like I noticed that like it just doesn't get anything clean. I don't know. Like it like leaves a residue for sure. There's something really disturbing about it. And it's an interesting thing. Like that was actually, like, just to backtrack a little bit, that was one of my introductories into health, was water. Just getting really interested in water filtration, distilled, reverse osmosis, etc. Like looking at just examining residues and things. Because I moved from like a couple different places. You know, I moved from Texas, California, etc. And I started to just like notice the differences in tap water. Like I noticed, like I started drinking the California tap water, and I wasn't getting as hydrated. So I was like, maybe I need to get filtered water, whatever. And funny enough, I mean, the California water may or may not have been better than Texas water. I'm not sure. They're probably both pretty awful in some way or another. But like for whatever reason, whatever the mineral balance of the California tap water was not as hydrating as the, you know, treated Texas lake water. You know,
right? Have you heard? Have you heard the fluoride debate? Because I had someone tell me last week that, you know, I'm just starting to question. Yeah, pretty much. I'm starting to question a lot of the fundamental things that people scare us about in the health. It's like EMFs and this is going to kill you and that's going to kill you. Someone told me that they were using fluoride toothpaste and they went to the dentist and their teeth were perfect health. The dentist, like no cavities. And I mean, that's just one case. It's anecdotal, but I am just wondering if everything else is coming in. Maybe it doesn't calcify our pineal gland, turn us into a zombie. I don't know. There's potential. It's just,
I think that if the people that, if people were putting it into our water to cause that, right, then there's probably an antidote to it, because they wouldn't do it to themselves, right? Some of them live in city water. So some of them live like unfiltered city water. Like, you know,
Right.
like maybe there's levels to this whole being elite thing. I don't know, like that I'm not aware of. Right. But
They're all
I don't know, man.
K2.
Right. Like there's probably a very fundamental thing that blocks it from being harmful. Probably. Where I live in Scottsdale, they do not fluoridate the water, but the water supplying Scottsdale does probably fluoridate. It's like not a guaranteed level. So it's like safer. But then you got to wonder, like, you know, this building, because it's like a large, you know, high rise, like they actually have giant water softening systems in boiler rooms because, you know, softened water is better for, you know, pipes. So just to preserve the system. And so thus there's less chlorine and less everything, you know, noticeable in the water. So I wonder if, you know, just the process of, you know, softening the water, putting it through the resin, et cetera, does that affect the power of the fluoride? Is the fluoride able to still do what it does? You know, I don't know. I wonder about those things because there's so much not understood about fluoride. Like we've had, you know, a lot of, you know, things to suggest that fluoride is, you know, that fluoride is bad, but, you know, I don't know. I still think there's a lot we don't understand.
Yeah. I'm sure you can relate. Like when you go out to a restaurant somewhere, you know, the server brings you over tap water and you just look at it and you have your water bottle there. And lately I've just been, you know, a little less like neurotic about health. And it's been so freeing to go to a restaurant and just sip it and, oh, okay, taste more chlorine in this water. Go to another restaurant. Oh, this tastes filtered. And not really worry about it.
Yeah. And if you think about it, man, like I've thought about this, right? Because like I used to have this feeling like, oh my God, water out of a plastic water bottle, water out of the tap. Oh my God, it's going to be the death, right? It's going to be the death of me. And I would go on a 3-hour flight and not drink any water. And then I would feel like crap for like the whole trip because I like went up in high altitude, dehydrated, landed. And then then you don't even want to drink as much water. It's just like after you put your body through the stress and everything, your digestion gets screwed up from not drinking water. And like literally I would get sick so often, right? Just because I was so scared. And it's like, would my health have been better if I just drank the crap water, drank the Dasani or whatever? Like, cause if you think about it, like, I don't know, just think about a car. Like there was no oil in the car. Like water is like kind of like our lubrication and it's like it's our electric system and our lubrication. So if you don't have oil in a car, then the engine's going to get screwed up, right? If you put the wrong oil in there, it's probably still going to work a little bit better than no oil. It might destroy the engine over time, right?
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like having something in the system to make sure everything's flowing is going to be better than nothing at all.
It's a great point. Yeah. Recently I got caught up in the whole Southwest scandal for Christmas and I drank a lot of airport water and usually if they give you the boxed water, a cool like hack I found was the molecular hydrogen tablet in the boxed water. And then you just down that. But the magnesium sulfate in most of the airport waters, that really wrecks me just because it like causes diarrhea. I mean, it really makes my
the average person probably really benefits from it, but for us, like it's like too much, you know. That's so funny. They literally put Epsom salt in the water. What a weird thing, right? And it's like, what else is Epsom salt even used for, right? It's like bathe in it. But you know, depending on the airport, you can usually find bottled spring water. You know, like I've been pretty lucky to find it. You just got to like search for it and buy it. You know, Smart Water, you can find it. Just kind of, my position now is even the Dasani, I'd rather drink it than be dehydrated. You know, it's like, it's kind of silly to not, do something to keep you hydrated. But that's why sometimes, like, if I go to a restaurant and I do care about the water, sometimes going to a nicer restaurant, like just a lot of them have Pellegrino, you know,
that's usually Pellegrino or Perrier.
Yeah. And, a lot of restaurants out here, you can just say, I want bottled still. Most of the nice restaurants have bottled still water. It'll be some cool spring water from somewhere. I actually just ordered 3 cases of this water it's a spring water that has an 11 TDS naturally. And there's no calcium in it. It's just magnesium and silica. It's the best tasting water I've ever had. Yeah.
I remember you were into Castle Rock for a while, right?
Oh yeah, still got a bottle over there in the
Yeah.
background there. Yeah, I like Castle Rock. It's like a 29 TDS or like 30, between like low 30s, high 20s on the TDS, which is good. Still a high silica, high low magnesium or high magnesium, high silica, low calcium water, and then I believe that water is low in deuterium. I think most stuff from Shasta is low in deuterium.
I was just going to ask you if you tried like the light water or any of the other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I honestly like it's a pain to me. I think that I would just rather do something else. I think there's probably a lot of benefits, but like it's so inhibiting on your lifestyle to like make sure that every single liquid that you drink is diluted.
Yeah.
I just, that's my only thing I can say. But yes, there's a lot of cool stuff about it. I'm very fascinated in the research. I think like, have you got your water tested where you live for deuterium? Have you done it?
Yeah. So I'm fortunate to be on a spring here in North Idaho, and I think it tested 130, like around 130, something like that.
Gotcha. So
I
it's
think
still like a little
I
bit
think the
higher
average
than
is like what 140, right, around the world,
yeah.
parts per
So
million.
you're a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense, right? It's like it slows down reactions. So to eliminate it is going to make things work better. It makes a lot of sense. But practicality wise, like we got a long way to go, you know?
Yeah.
And I love Robert Slovak. He's a friend of mine. And I think I love his company and I love everything that he puts out. I really do. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I tried it. I did it. I did like a month or two on it. I think I'm young enough that I just don't notice it. And it just seemed like a pain. But if I got older and it was more practical and I wasn't traveling and eating out as much, then I would probably do it, you know?
Yeah. I wonder if it has an effect just drinking the straight 5 or 10 ppm just straight, just to quickly dilute. And
yeah.
So that even if you're consuming other liquids, it doesn's matter as much.
Yeah, and there's something to that, right? Because it kind of goes back to what I was saying about any water is better than no water. If your body's working properly, then maybe it can eliminate it on its own, right? Or like it doesn't have as much of an effect. Because I know that Chris Shade, he was able to deplete his levels rapidly. Like he did it very, very fast. He was like the fastest to get his levels down. And I don't think he was even drinking very much of the deuterium depleted water. I don't think he was very strict about the protocol. His theory was that it was the high amount of phosphatidylcholine he consumes. He thought that the choline was supporting the cell membrane, helping improve the elimination of the cell, which could very well be.
Oh, yeah. I tested my I think it was urine. I forget, or is a saliva, because they have like they have the breath and then saliva or something like that. And I heard the ratio between those two types of tests could show you how well your cells are depleting it. Something like that. I still haven't done the breath one, but
yeah. I haven't done a test on myself. I did get a few test kits because, as I told you before, we're going up to a hot spring in Montana. So I bought 2 test kits so I can test the water there because we're thinking about somehow getting involved with using the property, something.
Cool. It'd be cool if you're closer to me.
Dude, I love it. I love Montana, so like that could be great. So it's just a matter of time, because it's interesting. I got tired of living in isolation in the mountains, which I loved. Spring water, no EMFs, the whole living the dream, right? Or well water rather. And then eventually you realize that like human interaction is kind of a nutrient too, right? Community is important, and some people need it more than others. And that was my big revelation of 2022, was connecting to other people, right? That was my new nutrient, right? And that's been a profound effect on my health, to have community and other people that are trying to do better, and being surrounded by that. That's so important. Like I can only imagine that a lot of people, listening probably, that are struggling probably don't have that level of community. And I really highly encourage people to like seek it out, like, because then things just get easier, because there are people out there that are just open in every way to bettering themselves. And you got to find those people. You got to find those pockets of the world where that's acceptable, because certain parts of the world, it's like actually not socially acceptable to take good care of yourself. It's just not, right. So you got to find places where it is, otherwise you just deal with so much friction.
Yeah, that's true. I was watching the video on the VR headset by I think Marquise, that guy who was like using Zuckerberg's Meta headset, and between that and COVID, it seems like something some group or whatever is steering us in that direction of isolation because, I could just hang out with you in the metaverse versus
Yep.
in person.
Well, also like you could probably eventually program an AI like to listen to you. Like Siri could just listen to you all day and then get a sense of your personality. And then you could literally create an AI of yourself. And I could hang out with AI Matt Blackburn. That would be almost like you.
Right.
And then we wouldn't even need to talk. Like you might even be able to they might even be able to program it where it's more stimulating to interact with the false version of you.
Right.
Kind of makes me wonder, the biblical references to the false prophet, right? It's like, maybe that was technology. That's what I always think about. Like maybe it is the metaverse. Maybe that is the end times is the, just as someone who's sort of, neutral on that type of thing. I just think maybe they first saw it in some way. I don't know. They didn't know how to describe it.
But there was a movie kind of on that same vein by Bruce Willis starred in it called Surrogates. I saw that in the theater where pretty much he's in his living room and he just straps into this machine when he wakes up. And then his AI robot goes out into the world and, he could get shot, hit by a car, whatever, and it doesn't matter. He just has to spend money to replace it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this off air, but, think about all the iPad kids, you go to a restaurant and like parents would rather have their kid on an iPad. They like, it's like the best babysitting tool ever. Like your kid's like acting loud and whatever. And so you just give them the iPad, like here, subdue yourself with some very heavy drugs, honestly. Like the dopamine from these iPads, like they're designed to keep the kids engaged and addicted. Imagine, just the effect that it's going to have on these kids is insane. But like the thing is like we know that like dopamine from technology is like more potent and more addictive than like some chemical inputs, right?
More than sugar.
I think,
right?
I forget what sugar is. There's this really good book that I read recently. It's Dopamine Nation, and they had like a chart on like the different
cocaine,
like, dopamine sources. Yeah, I think that cocaine was like 2,000% increase, right? And then chocolate was a 50% increase. Sex was 100% increase. And then like ice bath was like 150%, something like that.
Wow.
And I don't know where sugar was on that scale. I should probably know that.
5 million.
Yeah, more than cocaine, I'm not sure. But the interesting bit of of her research, because like if you look at addiction, like what she was talking about was like, if you look, if you think of like alcohol addiction, right? They do their philosophy in Alcoholics Anonymous or any of the 12 step, right, is to completely abstain. You're an addict forever. You never touch alcohol ever again. It's the only way. If you have one little sip, you're relapsing. And the thing is, like, alcoholism versus phone addiction. Some people are more addicted to their phones than an alcoholic is to their alcohol. Like, so what, like, how can no one on this planet can live without their phone now? Right. Or there are some, but like, pretty much no one, unless you like live in, some indigenous area. And even then I think they have access to like sat phones and stuff. There's still communication happening, I think, just about anywhere now. But like literally, like, how do you can't abstain permanently from a phone, right? So what she was finding with some of her patients and then in some of the research, like there was a study with mice where like, they did the whole like cocaine experiment, right? Where they got the option of food or cocaine, and they would choose cocaine every single time and literally like, even if food was right next to them, they'd keep hitting the cocaine button until they died. Right. But they tried it again where they only had like an hour window, and I'm not exactly sure what the outcome was. So I'm going to be kind of, paraphrasing what this was. So like, don't like quote me exactly, but basically when they moderated their consumption of the cocaine to 1 hour a day, they were able to basically live somewhat normally. They were forced to only consume cocaine in one interval. And I think what they did was they took them off of it completely, and they didn't have like this terrible reaction versus like when they were getting an unlimited supply. So that's kind of the idea, and probably something that could be looked at with diet too. we didn't used to have an unlimited supply of certain things during certain times. Now we can get literally we can get absurdly specific unlimited supply of anything, like amino acids. Like we could never get pure carnitine and like liposomal carnitine or injectable carnitine and just get that like, right. You know, that was never something that we had. Right. So and there's probably great benefits to having that. But it's just like, you know, having everything so readily available and on demand, like it's like there are some, you know, possibly some really, really, you know, some downsides to it too, right? But it's interesting that moderating your exposure could actually prevent, you know, a full-on addiction or help actually track back from addiction. Because what she found, there are people that were like cannabis users that were doing it all day long. And then she was like, okay, like what if you moderate it to like 1 day a week or like 1 hour a day or whatever it was, like how, like, you know, if you could create a consistent schedule. Those people actually ended up not having the same, you know, issues when they actually like, rather than having like a total abstinence approach, people are still going to want, people need dopamine. People need some level of pleasure, right? So it's like, rather than saying, okay, you can't have your source of pleasure, it's more like, how about you have your source of pleasure in a way that it doesn't control your life and cause negative effects? And I think that's how we're going to have to approach technology. But I don't even know what it's going to be like when kids are developing with it, especially like with AI. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've looked at all the AI writing tools. Those will eventually be able to be turned into AI personalities with voices. So those iPad kids that are playing interactive games right now, those interactive games are going to be like actual people they're talking to. And it's like, what if these games and these people are more addictive than their friends? They might literally never make genuine friendships. Like in 5 years or 2 years, the kids that are in preschool now, even they might have less. They might almost have no interest in being friends with each other because they're going to get more pleasure from their devices. We're already there. I know that there's probably a good chunk of people listening, and even I've gone through these phases where I probably get more pleasure using my phone, scrolling on Instagram, than I do from hanging out with really good, engaging, smart, great people. Right. And that's pretty bad. Right. And it's like, so there's a big case to like, you know, finding some way to moderate it. And as I was showing you, I have this lockbox with a timer where I literally set like, you know, a certain period of time and then keep my phone in there. And
what's that brand?
You know, let me look.
Sure people want to buy it.
Mindsight timed lockbox. It's pretty good.
Okay, cool.
The only annoying part is the buttons. You have to like push them like a bunch of times if you're doing less than an hour. But like I'll just set it before bed and throw it in there, and it's great. Honestly, it's like one of those, you know, really wonderful things. I think that's kind of the way to look at it. You know, that was something for me where I'm like, okay, like I took like a pretty serious year off of like working as hard as I had been, because like when I knew you, like I but short of like the few breaks I'd take to go down to SoCal, hang out, see everyone, I was working like absurd amounts of hours and burning myself out and just going crazy. And I, in this last year, kind of took a step back and was like, okay, like what do I want my life to look like? Like what do I want? Like, you know, I want to be happy, right? Like I want to like, you know, what am I living for, right? I had this whole existential crisis of a year in a very positive way. But, you know, that was one thing that like, you know, came out of it for me was like, okay, like, maybe I'm not getting like, you know, all my pleasure came from like working and accomplishing stuff. And then I like detached from that to try to reframe like, what is pleasure? What is happiness for me? Like, what would my ideal life look like? Right. And it's interesting because then you can just kind of replace it for other addictions. I think near the later end of the year, I started to just kind of become very dependent on, you know, just like devices and overstimulation. I think living somewhere where I'm just around technology and bright lights, it makes it even easier. And it's a socially acceptable addiction too. Being on your phone, you know, I'm in the elevator in my place often, and there's no cell service in the elevator. Why? And like people, nothing's going to load, but people are still just like, I was in there yesterday and I just remember very distinctly, there's like 3 girls in the elevator and they're just like, they're not doing anything on their phones. The idea of interaction, you know, it's like they're absolutely not doing something, because I will always wait to send text because otherwise it'll get frozen. And you know,
you made so you said so many interesting things. The alcohol part was really interesting to me because almost every day on social media I'll see these alcohol posts where it's like, it's the worst thing for your health. You should never ever drink it. But when you can, and I'm not endorsing it necessarily for everybody, but when you cancel alcohol and then you're replacing it with social media, like what's healthier, being, having your face in the screen all night, or going out and having drinks with your friends or your loved ones? I would say having drinks and getting that liver hit from the ethanol, right?
I agree, because you're actually getting something out of it, right? It actually has the potential to move you somewhere. Now that's different than like pointless interaction, going and getting like blacked out at the club. Like that's a whole different thing. But like, if you're using it socially in moderation, like somewhat consistently, that could be better and healthier than being like glued to TikTok. I absolutely think so, man. And I think with anything, like any poison has its small amounts of a poison can have its benefits. I was pretty much alcohol free until the beginning of 2022. Like I drink no alcohol whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Arizona, and it's like, maybe there's something about like the cactus and the agave plants around, or maybe it's just that people drink a lot in Arizona. I started to taste tequila a little bit, and I liked it. I was very like, non-alcohol. It was very alcohol free. And so I had, a little like a month that I moved here, where I started to drink. I never even had any relationship with drinking. And then I was like, whoa, okay, I see how this could go too far. And then I just kind of peeled back a little bit, but it's like, okay, like, but now it's like, I still am not like, it's like, I don't have a harsh opinion. I used to think that, wow, why would someone drink? Like, why would someone do that? But now I see the utility. It brings people together. And if it's done correctly, it can be beneficial. It just can't take over your life. And anything can take over someone's life, though. There's so many different types of addiction. I mean, I think workaholism is an addiction too. I know people that I live around that are neighbors of mine, because my building is like mostly entrepreneurs, a lot of health people, copywriters, freelancers, whatever. And it's interesting because some people I can tell, like they aren't even present. They aren't even able to really have a human interaction, because you can tell in the back of their head, they're like, I need to get back to my desk. Right. I need to get back to writing this paper. I need to get back to doing this. And it's just like, you're stealing. You're like stealing from tomorrow, really. When you do that, I think, because I don't look back on the point of time in my 20s when I was working endlessly. I don't like look back and say, oh, I'm glad I did that. To be honest, I mean, I wish I would have found mentorship and community that would have shown me how to do things differently, how to do things smarter, because I think it was just my ego and me needing to prove to myself that I was capable of working hard, because for so many years I struggled with being able to do anything at all. I don't think it was actually necessary, but it caused more harm than good. It just, because I really feel like only in this last year did I develop like a true, like I had friends, I knew you, I knew a lot of people, but it's like, like a true community is pretty nice to have,
But I think you wouldn't fully appreciate that if you didn't go through that. Right. And I kind of have the same
100%.
experience where, that, what's it called? The grind, and doing that for 2-3 years straight. You don't have many, meaningful connections, and you're just focused on growth and stuff. But I think, some people need that season in their life to kind of, I mean, I grew up around apathy, and that just kind of, it eventually triggered me where I was just surrounded by every single person, not every single, but 99% of the people in my life were apathetic. And then I met Will and David, who were entrepreneurs, and they just spurred me on to like create a supplement company. It was like, sometimes it just takes those little sparks to kind of break you out, but then that could unleash Pandora's box, and you just take it too far, like we did for a while.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's what's interesting, right? Like, cause all we need is that one little spark, right? Like you never even considered that as a route for you. And then they just said one thing to you, and then you're like, oh, like I see the promise here. Much the same for me when I was in college. For the like one semester I was really fully in college, my professor was like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, what are you doing in college? She's like, you have so many ideas. You have things you want to do. She's like, why are you here when you could be like just going out and chasing your dreams? She's like, my brother he was a millionaire by the time he was 25. He had a landscaping company. She's like, you don't need to do anything fancy. So you just do something that, you know, you're passionate about that helps other people. You don't need to be here. That was profound. I never even knew that was an option. And then forevermore, my perception of what was right for me was totally changed. You know, I thought it was an obligation to do it, and it made me miserable, you know, and looking back, maybe if I had the right nutrition, maybe if I had all the right things, I would have thrived, but maybe not too, you know, we all have different nature, we have different things, you know. For me, that type of learning is very difficult. Other types of learning, very easy, very enjoyable. That type of learning, very difficult for me, you know?
Right. Forced memorization. You're forced to memorize all this stuff that isn't necessarily practical to real life. And I
got, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I got close to one of the directors of entrepreneurship at one of the local universities here, one of the larger ones. And, you know, that's literally, he's like talking about with all the AI and everything. He's like, a lot of professors are pissed about it. They're like, oh man, we got to find a way to catch them. And it's like, it's just like the same thing as calculators, right? It's like how many times were you told in school, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket? And it's like, now you're under risk, you know, now you can just ask, you know, now you can have the AI do highly complex formulas and turn them into computer code in literally less than a minute, you know. It's like all those things that, you know, so why resist it? That'll never go away now. We've crossed over a new line. So it's like, why? Like, it's unfortunate in some ways, yes, but like we're never going to go back.
Right.
So
I've been listening with it. I agree. Yeah, I've been listening to Elon Musk on a couple different shows, like Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan. He has some interesting ones, and I think he's brought up a few times that we are already cyborgs, because I notice the huge resistance to like EMFs and AI are coming from people that spend more time than me on Instagram or Facebook or social media. And it's so ironic, they do not see it. And I call it out and I'm like, you guys are already cyborgs that are fighting against this supposed satanic AI system. You're typing that on your phone. And Elon always makes this point that, like you said, it's like phantom limb syndrome. Like with our phone, if we leave it and we leave the house, or missing limb syndrome, it's like we're missing something. So recently my parents got me onto Apple Watch. That was like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months ago. I was inspired to get one, and I started going down this Apple Watch rabbit hole. And some people make the point that it's a way, I follow like a prepper YouTube channel, and he made the point that it's a way to leave your phone behind, because you could still receive text, send text, you know, voice text, whatever, calls, but you can't go on Facebook or Instagram. You can't scroll.
Right.
So that's incredible.
Right. I agree, man. And, you know, that's kind of the biggest thing for me. My biggest problem with detaching is, what if my mom has an emergency? Like, what if there's a family emergency? What if somebody needs me that I love? What if something goes wrong in my business? You know, it's almost like that anxiety is like worse than like, you know, that's why, like, for me, it's either like really late at night or really early in the morning. I try to have as my like phone free time, because then it's like, I'm going to be sleeping anyway, which is kind of silly, right? Because if we're sleeping, any disaster could happen anytime. It could happen in the middle of the night. There's no reason to be like paranoid about it, but it definitely happens. So that's a really interesting point, though.
You're not an on-call nurse, because I think they've turned us all into on-call people, right? Where you're supposed to be. I mean, I'm sure you notice that on social media as educators. It's like people are so demanding, and half of these people in the end shoot me down, or I spent hours and hours and hours for free on these people, and then they turn around and just shoot me down. It's like, what's the point at this point? Yeah, that's what I'm asking, of even spending time on people.
It's a weird one. I heard a good one when I was madly strong on social media the other day. There was like, you know, people will walk on top of you and still complain that you're not flat enough. You know?
I love it.
Which is true. It's often those people, right, that you do one nice thing for, and then it's almost like, you know, a good person would have a feeling of reciprocity, right? Oh, they did something nice for me. They helped me with a question. they're overwhelmed with questions, but they decided to pick my question and help me out. Like that is the reality, in a perfect world, you'd be able to reply to everyone and help everyone and there'd be peace on earth. Right. But it's not the way it is, right? You only have a limited amount of time and you have to be thinking like, how do I create the greatest impact for the people that I serve? It's like, your supplements might be more useful. People that figure out, hey, I'm going to take the supplement, they do their own research. They're probably more responsible. They'll probably get more benefit than the person that literally needs to be told how to, figure out a Google it question,
Right. High blood pressure. I get that question like at multiple times today, but yeah, Elon Musk says we're limited by our thumbs with bandwidth. It's like a bandwidth issue with typing. And so that his solution to that is Neuralink, which we kind of talked about before. I think he said it's supposed to have a whole brain interface by like 2040 or something, which I've just been kind of meditating on that almost more than health topics, because it's just fascinating to me because it would make so many things obsolete, so many things that people are stressing about now. Not to say I'm in support of it or I'm going to get it or whatever, not implying any of those things, but I'm just saying like it's going to change so much, like you said with the calculator thing. But
it'll be hard for people not to get it. It really will be. Right. It really will be, because it's just like these MMA guys or whatever, it's like they're all on like PEDs. They just have to be really good.
You mean prioritize, execute, and dominate?
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're all lying, right? They're all taking stuff, but they got the doctors in the labs. Like they're getting their blood tested to make sure that it looks normal, right? And if someone else is doing that, you have to do it. If you're going to beat them, it's like if you're an athlete, you're going to push it to the very edge because everybody else is. So with brain performance and productivity, you better believe that with the Neuralink, people are going to be forced,
It's true. Yeah. I think high level executives use cocaine a lot just to keep running their businesses and going nonstop and flying around the world nonstop. It's nuts. Dude, I'll stick with coca leaf.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. Well, it blew my mind because I'm very much now, in addition to being in the world of health, I'm very much in the world of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship, personal development, all those, crazy people. And I'm really grateful for it because, maybe more so than health, even entrepreneurship and personal development definitely saved my life in its own way. Right. So that really helped me, especially when I was like climbing back up after the fire. And, I'm grateful. Like now a lot of the people that I look up to are friends, and it's like, it's neat, but then you get around certain, there's offshoots. I wouldn't say my primary friend group or anything like this, but, then I meet people and I'm like, wow, this person's like so successful. They're doing all these things. Like, how do they do it all? Then it's like, oh yeah, they do a bunch of coke, right? It's like, oh yeah, they like take like Adderall and like modafinil, and it's like, then it's just like, man, it's like, okay, like cool, like this person is highly successful doing what they're doing, but it's like they're legally a crackhead.
Right. Yeah. My main drug of choice is tobacco and coffee, and I feel actually pretty good on the stimulants, and I just emphasize B1, thiamine, niacinamide, B3, all the Bs. I take B complex several times a day now instead of just once, like every couple hours actually. Magnesium, and I feel a huge difference staying on stimulants but supporting my system with B vitamins and magnesium.
Right. Yeah, I had a conversation with Robert Solak a long time ago about this, and this has been my belief, and he kind of agreed with me on this, but like ATP is chi, right? Chi is like your energy that you use in the moment. It's like your day-to-day energy. You got to support your cell energy production. That's your B vitamins, your magnesium, maybe CoQ10, things like that. Even molecular hydrogen is part of that process, right? So it's like, supporting cell energy is the only way to have sustainable energy if you're going to use stimulants. And just about everyone is going to benefit from using stimulants. It just is what it is. Mm-hmm. I think we've been using stimulants for a very long time as a society, and there might not be anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Speaking of stimulants, I started taking, what was it, like I don't know, 3 weeks ago, exogenous ketones. And I think years ago I got that. It was one of the first companies to come out with like BHB, beta hydroxybutyrate powder. And I actually felt kind of a hit from that. I felt an energy boost. But now recently, I think Ben Greenfield popularized it like 2 years ago, was the straight, well, there was ketone esters, and then there was another evolution of that.
Like the exogenous ketones or whatever, or was it different? Is that a different thing? I never looked into them too much.
Okay.
I know like Bulletproof had that thing that was like, it was like, it helped you produce more of the ketones, but it wasn't like an ester.
Okay. Yeah.
We used to take that stuff. Remember, we used to buy those bottles of that stuff. We were like popping them. Like we didn't even know what it did.
Right.
We were just like,
yeah, this is like the compounds are 1,3 butane-diol. So sounds scary. It's like butane. What do you
butane? Sounds like something I used to do back when I was in high school.
It's interesting though. I mean, it's they kind of a lot of companies advertise it as like an alternative to low carb, because you can induce ketosis with these. But I don't know. It's been insane. I'm just going to kind of revisiting like all these ideas. I think we were messaging back and forth earlier. Like you were saying you're going low carb for breakfast, and I was saying I'm been like meditating on intermittent fasting because I got ripped. I gained muscle. I lost body fat for sure, intermittent fasting. And I'm just starting to wonder how much of my stress was due to living in a stressful environment with a stressful person, and, you know, not being supported, that community thing.
Yep. 100%, man. 100%. Well, I know for me, no matter how dialed in my diet is, if I'm going through extreme stress, I will gain fat.
Mm-hmm.
It's no way around it. Honestly, there's just no way around it. I think stress is the biggest thing. Like I had a very long, like when I met you, when we became friends, my life was pretty well stress-free. A lot of stuff wasn't working. But my life was pretty well stress-free, you know, but then after the fire, like it changed my whole brain, my whole neurochemistry. I mean, even the smallest thing would send me into fight or flight, panic. You know, that can happen through a breakup. That can happen through any intense loss, right? It can create like permanent rewiring of how we deal with stress. And that's been my journey over the last few years, you know, more so than the chocolate, more so than the diet, is like how to get back to like that lighthearted person that I was, you know, because on the journey, we have our battles, we get our scars, we get our wounds, we have our things that affect us. Right. And it's unfortunate. It really is, because we, you know, it's like, that's kind of really, I think, something that is very valuable, is to have like that, I don't want to say like childlike mind, but like an untraumatized brain. It's useful because your openness to possibilities, your creativity, all of that is at its max. You're going to be more direct towards your goals, because you're not going to be like acting in fear in any which way. Your critical thinking will be better. Everything's better. So for me, it's been a very interesting journey back there. You know, that's why I pivoted from just chocolate to like, you know, ashwagandha supplements, you know, things like that, because that was a big thing that at least helped me get over the edge. Right. So
right.
I felt like it was like a natural segue and talk about cacao calm. You know?
I love it. Yeah. My friend Sean Weldman shared this a couple of days ago. Human beings are naturally wired for connection with others, but when you suffer from PTSD, the brain of the individual becomes rewired for protection instead. Yes. I love that.
Yes. Yep. 100%. Yeah. We'll do that. And we'll, you know, you think about it, there's like fight, flight, and freeze, right? You know, I feel like I had to go through every single one of those phases, right? When the fire first happened, I was in fight. I didn't realize it, but I was literally working like 12 plus hours a day for like 2 years, and I just didn't stop. I just go. Like 2018 to like end of 2019, I just nonstop. Like, or it was really October 2017 on, you know, to about, you know, September of 2019. I just literally was like nonstop. Just like, it was absurd. I was running, you know, I didn't realize it. I thought I was just, I need to work harder. I'm going to out, you know, and like, I wasn't thinking though. My brain, I was not actually thinking. Like I was, my intelligence was at an all-time low. my social skills were at an all-time low. I was like anxious in public, never had been before in my life. I just wanted to work. That's all I wanted to do. Just wanted to work, wanted to dig out of the hole, wanted to find a way out of the hole, wanted to find a way back to safety. Right. And I made several extremely stupid decisions that almost put me made me bankrupt, etc. And I continued to make stupid decisions because I was just so running, right? Chasing like safety, right? And I think that eventually that transitioned to like avoidance flight, right? Rather than working all the time, I wanted to not work. And then it like became, in the last phase, which I'm exiting or have exited in the last probably 6 months, was the freeze, really, where I was just like, I didn't want to do anything. I talked to a lot of friends that are older. They have that same thing. It's like, I know what I want to do, but I'm scared to do it because I don't want to go through what I went through when I was younger, because as you know, when you're building something, starting a business, whatever it is, you're going to go through some stuff that's so intense, and it's just like so brutal. And it's like, do you ever want to go through that again? Like you think once you get through it, you're like, all right, this is it. I made it. I don't have to do this again. But sometimes things will actually happen that are worse.
Right.
And like, you have to like be good for it. Right. So it's all about conditioning the system so that when something happens, that's dramatic, whatever it is, we're able to not get so affected by it. And, that was an interesting thing when I met, one of my friends, when I first met one of my friends, Joe Polish, about a year ago. That was his advice to me. He was like, so I told him a little bit about my life. I met him at his house with a mutual friend, and he was like, things don't get easier. You just get better at dealing with the stuff. He's like, nothing in my life has ever gotten easier. He's like, I've just gotten better at dealing with it.
Wow.
which is, simple, but very profound. It really is, because that's goes back to one of my favorite quotes. It's like I think it was a Jim Rohn quote, which was like, beware of what you become in pursuit of what you want, right? It's really about asking yourself, what am I becoming, right? And it's like, who you become is a lot more important than what happens to you. It's like all about conditioning yourself for the right reaction. Like, I feel like all the work I did on myself allowed me to remain somewhat calm when the fire happened. But the aftercare, I didn't understand trauma that well, right? Like I didn't understand like what I was actually going through. Now I could identify it. So it's like, am I grateful that I went through it? Yeah. I was able to create some good things as part of it. But it's just like, sometimes you look back and I'm like, wow, that consumed like years of my life to figure it out. And it's like, but previously I thought I had it all figured out, right? I thought I was like good. Thought raw veganism was the way, and that meat eaters were evil, and I was enlightened, and all this stuff. And
right. Yeah. And then you have the external, which people would say, it's all inside of you. That's all that counts. But you do have people creating manufactured storms and trying to suck you into these storms. And it's like, you have to almost become like a warrior, or just ignore all those storms around you that people are manufacturing as you're building. Because yeah,
there could be some truth to it's all in your mind, but I think that if you want to play in the world, if you want to interact with other people, then you're subjected to the rules and the views and the perceptions and the worldviews of other people. So you have to. You're exactly right. You have to fight. You have to fight for what your belief system is and what your way of being is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have to find harmony and community, and sometimes that's just like not causing too much of a stir to finding common ground. Like there's an element of that too. I like that as well.
Right. Well, yeah, we were talking, I think at the beginning or before we started recording, about how changing your mind and how these big names will change their mind on a little thing. Like I was listening to Stephen Gundry, the lectin guy, polyphenol guy, and he's saying, I've been wrong about
olive oil.
Yeah. he said it in the Dave Asprey podcast. He's like, I realize I've been wrong on this for 20 years. And I'm like, wait, is this going to cause a character assassination attempt on Stephen Gundry? Because he admitted publicly he's been wrong on 20 years. He's been selling books and selling programs and selling supplements. I mean, I've been in this for, Mitolife a couple of years, and like, it's insane. Anyway, there's just changing your mind, I think, is becoming more taboo. And that's really sad to see, because I don't think anything is static. Once you get locked into, pro-metabolic, Ray Peat, everything he said is the truth, or this person or that person. It's like, nope, it's all gray. There's all gray areas. Yeah.
I mean, I really think the healthy approach is that every diet is a tool. Some people might be able to sustain a diet for a long period of time with great benefit. Some people might not, but might benefit from a short period of it. Like, someone might tremendously benefit from a year of keto. Someone might tremendously destroy their health from a year of keto. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like the person promoting keto, 50% of the people that listen to them are promoting their specific keto diet. 50% of the people listening to them, I'm just throwing out numbers, they aren't accurate, but I'm saying like half of them could have dramatic turnarounds in their health. Half of them could have dramatic downfalls of their health, or just not follow the protocol, or whatever it is, right? And it's like, is this person like is this person all that? Or is it just that like, it's just a numbers game that eventually, like, you have enough people, some people eating beans is like the main problem they're having, right? And then they read Gunner's book and they stop eating beans or whatever. They start pressure cooking them. And then all of a sudden they feel better. Like, great, and then they go on Facebook and comment about how it worked for them, and then everyone's like, oh my God, this is it. This is the way. And then it's like, some people are like, oh yeah, beans contain lots of prebiotic fiber you can't find anywhere else. And like, you mix them with other things, and then it's like, it's life-changing. And
yeah, I felt pretty good doing like beans. Like, I do the Eden brand canned beans. I do like, Great Northern beans, cannellini beans, black beans, navy beans. And I'll usually just eat a can with like nutritional yeast and butter and salt. And I feel really good on that.
It's good, man. That's like a classic Italian dish is like, just take the cannellini beans, and like some really good butter and like a bunch of cloves of crushed garlic, saute that. And then, preheat the beans, right? Or rinse the beans really well if they're in a can, and then stir them in there and just get them just fire them up a little bit. You use a lot of butter. Just get them a little bit, like almost crisp, right? Like, just like, you cook them pretty good, and then plate that, put a little bit of red pepper, just a little sprinkle of red pepper, just for a little bit of flavor, and some Parmesan cheese, black pepper, white pepper on top. Ridiculous.
That's a good idea.
So good. The Jovial Foods, they have pressure cooked canned beans. Those are good. I like those.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's totally random, and I wanted to ask you this earlier, but I had my first Jun, I think it was like the mango flavored one for in years the other day.
I'm gonna grab one right now.
All right. I was wondering if back in your, when you lived in that house, or where you were deep in the veganism experiment, if you were doing a lot of kombucha or Jun or sauerkraut or all of it.
Mm-hmm. I was doing a lot. As I take a sip of Jun, I was doing it a lot, and I did not feel good from kombucha. Jun, I felt good from. I don't know what the difference in bacteria is, but there definitely is.
Well, supposedly, don't they feed kombucha with white sugar and Jun's from honey?
Yep.
I don't understand that, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, Jun is a honey kombucha, and it is a different culture. It's like from a different place, and there's all this lore about it. And certain Jun cultures are supposed to be better, and some are supposed to be cursed, and all this stuff. Good classic hippie vegan, lore. But yeah, I actually really benefited from Jun. To be honest with you, man, like, I don't know if sauerkraut did much for me. I ate a lot of it. I don't know. I really don't know. I like kimchi. I enjoyed it. Like, did it help me? I don't know. Honestly, I just don't know. Like, I'm way on the fence about it. Like, I ate a lot of it. Now I don't eat any of it, and I don't really feel any different, to be honest with you. One thing that I have been playing around with, though, is bifidobacteria combined with acacia fiber. That I noticed more so than these, trillions and trillions of bacteria that we get from sauerkraut. So
bifidobacteria mixed with acacia fiber.
Yep. So I'll do. I mean, not necessarily at the same time. But there's a lot of interesting research on the metabolic benefits of bifidobacterium in particular, but also the neurological benefits. That's where I got really interested, just in just a whole host of things. But acacia fiber seems to be like the main prebiotic for the bifidobacteria. So I would just find like a, probiotic that's rich in a variety of bifidobacteria. Could have acidophils in there too, but look for one that has a lot of that, add a little acacia fiber. I've been doing like 2 tablespoons spread out throughout the day. I got my shaker bottle that I showed you, and it's kind of been my favorite thing now. I just like I have one that I use for my protein stuff, and I have one that I use for like liquid stuff. So I'll do like 2, like maybe electrolyte water, spring water type of drinks. And then I'll do like 2 fiber based drinks. And nice. Honestly, man, like that's been pretty profound. It just seems like, I don't know, fiber has a very powerful detox effect as well, so it just seems like things just are working better for me all around, cognitively.
Wow. And so are you skipping dinner or fat? Do you have an eating window that you're doing? Or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. So what I'm doing now is my target goal is like within like 4 hours of waking up, I'm getting like about 40 grams of protein, 45 to 52 grams of protein is like, just depending on, because I've been measuring the drink. So I know exactly what it'll be, whether it be like, plant or whey. It ranges between like 45 and I think 57 grams is actually the exact number, but I do lots of protein, low on the sugar. So, but getting that protein in early. And well, what is protein, right? Protein is a host of amino acids, and amino acids have a variety of benefits. Like each amino acid has different, when you look at each one, they all have profoundly different benefits, right? So that's kind of been a big game changer for me, is doing the protein. And then I will follow that up like an hour after, whenever I consume the protein, with the fiber. I will, depending on my exertion and my need, break my fast, if you will, from the liquids around, 1 to 2 o'clock if I feel hungry. Like if I did like maybe some sort of high intensity interval, like heavy workout in the morning, which I usually, of course, do fasted, right? Pre-protein, usually just hydrate, get at something, try to sweat, right? Sometimes I'll do sauna, whatever it is, just something to get moving. But depending on my level of exertion, I might want some carbs earlier. So I'll do literally just grass-fed bison and white rice or brown rice, whatever I'm feeling. They're both good, I think. Depending on if I'm feeling scared of lectins, on that particular day.
Or the arsenic
right?
and the brown rice too.
Right. Depending on like my level of paranoia, I tend to enjoy white rice, but then, fiber, brown rice has fiber, we like fiber. I don't know. So it's like, but I'm already taking fiber. So do I, it's like a big conundrum, but anyway, it's like the most stressful decision of the day. No, but, I'll often do just, the ground bison and some sort of carb. And I don't do any vegetables. I'm not doing a whole lot of like, greens. I will do them. It's just, I'm using them more supplementally, not as like the main piece of my meal. Protein's the center of my meal now, so, that'll put me, that'll be like, 45 grams of protein in there. So I'll get up to like 99 grams before dinner, usually. And then I can kind of eat whatever I want, because I'm pretty much guaranteed. So my protein goal myself is like 160 grams a day. So if I just have a steak, I'm going to be pretty much there. It's like, I don't have to think about it too much. That's kind of what I like to do. I like to set things up so that like I kind of have like my drinks and they're easy, and then I just sip on them throughout the day. I'm satiated, I'm good. And then by the end of the day, dinner for me is like literally usually just a steak, maybe some vegetables, maybe not. Just totally depends. Could be more carbs. Could be some beans. Like there's a place right across the street from me, like literally like a 2-minute walk for me, that has bison steak, and there's like fava beans and, stuff like that. So I'll just get that, and it's really good. Just have that, and that's really solid, and that seems to work really well for me. And then I'm not restrictive about the particular macros at the end of the day. I'm not like, oh, I got to do whatever, like this percentage of this or this percentage of that. Like I'll do more carbs if I want to, but I'll still prioritize eating the protein. So that's kind of at least my experiment and goal lately. And I've just found tremendous benefit. I'd always struggled to consume, what would be deemed as adequate amount of protein for, I guess, in my case, it's either building muscle or building brain power, right? Because, they're kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
That's what I've noticed, at least. Like, cause,
I
was eating
resilience too, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. You get the tryptophan, all those other things in there. It's just like, it's fascinating to me, right? Just even the whole conversation, like here's another one. It's like essential versus non-essential amino acids. That's the only, that's like the main defining factor of what a protein even is. Isn't that funny? And essential just means we don't make it ourselves. Like, has nothing to do with whether or not, like, but like tons of natural protein sources have tons of non-essential amino acids in there.
Right.
So is protein by definition even like a really safe way to determine, like, or should we be talking about amino acids instead of protein? Like I think it's a very inaccurate measure, in my opinion, of like what we need, because sure, I understand that, we can produce our own, but it kind of comes back to like anything, right? Like there's a lot of things we can produce that we're not getting enough of.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that we get enough of that we don't absorb because something's going on in our system. So just the fact that we're able to produce it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, supplement it. I mean, why do people supplement creatine and, carnosine and all those things? So
did you ever take just those MAP tablets? Because I remember you were on those.
Yeah, I did.
Do you feel a difference with your shakes versus those? Like you're more satiated?
I was never able to tolerate it, honestly, sustainably. I would get acid reflux from it. No matter how I tried to do it, I was never able to tolerate it. And I've finally come to that conclusion after literally in the last 3 months, because I had still been trying to force it down. Like I was doing the perfect amino protein powder, and I was like, my digestion, my gut, I felt terrible. But I'm like, hey, it's the most bioavailable protein. Like I gotta get it down.
Wow.
But like honestly, it was just my system was rejecting it in every which way, and I kept trying, but like it just was not. My body was not taking it. So
interesting. Now I seem to react okay on it. It's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I know a lot of people that do, and a lot of people that benefit tremendously from it. One of my very good friends at his wellness center, they sell all their stuff, the protein bars and everything. And I was even eating their protein bars, which have tapioca fiber in there, so it's not the best thing ever. But like I was eating their protein bars and still feeling like sick from them. So,
wow.
For whatever reason, I can't tolerate it.
Wow. So I wanted to ask you, skipping breakfast versus dinner for the eating window thing, because I think you remember my almond raw days. It was like
I sure do.
1 hour a day. I'd set an alarm. And thinking back, I mean, I was super bloated. I mean, I would stuff myself for an hour at like 8 p.m. at night, or sometimes even 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And, beans, soy, protein shake.
Wasn't there like the almond raw shake? It was like a bunch of peanut butter and
there was no peanut butter, but it was.
Oh, but it was like peanut butter.
Yeah, right.
Is he still around? Is that guy still around?
I think so. Yeah, he's on YouTube. But yeah, it was pretty much bulk supplements, isolated aminos. It was a lot of work because you had to make your own protein shake. Like talk about DIY. It was DIY every month with your protein shake. It was a lot of work. And you're like measuring these exact amounts of each individual protein powders. I think you mix in it was like nutritional yeast, spirulina. I can't remember. There were like 6 or 8 things in addition to the aminos. But I mean, I got shredded. I'm just like thinking should I have skipped dinner and just eaten lunch instead? Like, I wonder what would have been better,
I don't know. What would be the benefit of skipping dinner? I'm just curious.
Well, I guess some people say, like I was watching Sean Wells last night, and he was talking about how we wouldn't eat naturally in the dark when it's pitch black outside. Like if you just think about it, we wouldn't eat a meal back in the day in the dark. So
is that true though? If we had fire, I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, right. Yeah, because we'd be able to see if we just had some wood and a little fire.
But yeah, I mean, if we were eating, I'm sure we had. I mean, we had fire pretty early on.
Right. Huh. That's a good point. Yeah, there's all these ancestral arguments where I'm like, who knows, right?
Yeah,
I guess there's the Jack Kruse argument that you're releasing light in your gut, blue light at night internally, which disrupts your circadian rhythms. There's the circadian rhythm angle is like the biggest one. You just say everything does?
I said it probably does. I mean, everything affects something, right?
Right.
It's just is it what is how highly affected, how much is it affecting you?
Right.
Because I know that I lived, so much like you, I lived in an isolated area with no EMFs and no artificial light, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like I'm happier and healthier here where I'm surrounded by EMFs.
Mhm.
and I don't have fully blacked out shades even, which I don't love. I prefer their black to be blacked out. Like, I'm not saying it's ideal, but it's just interesting to me, like the light I get during the day. Like, I'm using the hue lights like you've been playing around with. And like, for some reason, just getting like more natural. So I live in an area where it's like sunny pretty much every single day also.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm getting a lot of natural light. This is one of the few like overcast days in, Arizona. It's like always sunny, always like 70 degrees, or once it's summer and it's like then it's really hot. Right. But like, I'm getting like tons of light. I don't know. I feel like the light that you're getting, like the beneficial light is better than it's better to get more of the beneficial light than like worry about the other exposure. Right. Then again, like staring at your screen for an hour before bed, like that's, definitely bad. But it's more, it's beyond like, the light exposure. It's also just the dopamine effect. It's like your sleep quality is going to be poor, and you're going to be jacked up, and you're going to wake up thinking about, you're going to be in that mode when you wake up, and you're going to get back on your phone, and
I found a more sensitive, I found a more sensitive to sound than light. Like recently, hotel hopping, trying to escaping California for Christmas. Like, I forgot my blue blocking glasses for the entire trip. I drove till 1 a.m., slept like a baby. Didn't wear blue blocking glasses in my parents' house. They're blasting lights. Didn't get any headache, head pressure like I usually used to get. Maybe it's the ascorbic acid. I mean, I've been taking it like every hour, a gram.
Yeah. You've been doing a gram every hour for every day for a while?
Yeah. Because I was reading Doris Loh's work, how ascorbic acid can depolarize EMFs because they're polarized. So basically it steps down, and there's scientific research on this. It steps down artificial electromagnetic fields to a lower energy level.
Yeah.
So it's just funny that this solution's been in front of our face all this time. And I thought it was the devil for the last 2 years. And then I read this research that just completely contradicts my religion. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I was completely wrong on ascorbic acid, where it's the most protective thing we could possibly take.
That's honestly an incredible thing though, man, because like, I got to acknowledge you for that, because like a lot of people will hold on to their belief systems or their dogmas. Like, they'll take it to the grave, and they'll take other people with them. And wouldn't it, like, I don't know. I thought, at least when I got into all this, that we were really supposed to pursue truth and pursue like what's best for everyone. Cause like, I would never tell someone every like crazy biohacker's dream is to go live in isolation, like with no blue light, everything natural, like go back to basics, whatever. And I've done it to a degree, and I wouldn't recommend that be the number one thing for someone's health. I would not say, hey, go do that. Right. But it's like, some people are like, sleep on wood planks, eat liver and take steroids.
Unless you have that community, right? Like if you have a girlfriend or a wife or someone that supports, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is an essential nutrient, I think. That's very missed. I'm less affirmation-y than I used to be, but one thing I wrote down, my intention for last year was, this is my year to connect with people. And boy, did I ever. It's like, now I have, in addition to the chocolate business, I have a mastermind I run of entrepreneurs. And, it's like, it's cool, like to just bring people together literally for no other intention than like, hey, let's get together and see if like we might help each other or just support each other. At the very least, let's go on a hike with each other, and it's like, like some people, like, I don't feel like I connect with them very well, but like maybe nobody does, and it's like, maybe they just need to be around someone. Like, I've learned that, it's like, you got to be protective and not be around like total losers and people that are like, like low-life parasitic people. But, I'm grateful that I've like cultivated like a group of people that like, we all are very like-minded. So like, those people that are like that, they don't stick, or, they just don't get reinvited. Right. So it's like, we're able to, keep things relatively pure. And it's like, there's something very, very powerful to that. That was through Tracy. I met this guy, Joe, and that's like kind of what he's known for, being the most connected person alive or whatever.
Wow.
And, he really turned, like, he changed my life in a lot of ways just because of that. Like literally, like every like thing I needed to figure out, he knew someone for that. And It's like, before you know it, I wove this network of people, and it's like, the ability to help other people with your network, and then also like have support is so crucial. I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, like if you think, maybe this is total nonsense, maybe people didn't help each other as much as we think, but supposedly, people would go to new cities or areas to colonize them. Everyone would get together and help them build their house or whatever it is. Like everybody kind of have like a community, approach to things, right? I know with my neighbors, for like ordering supplements or whatever it is, if I'm bulk ordering something, I'll be like, hey, group text, hey, you want anything, Yeah. So it's like, that's, to me, there's something really powerful about having people that share some of your worldview that help support you. Because, this is in no way to talk bad about my family, but, I was raised, being told like, you don't want to be one of those guys with muscles. You don't want to be one of those big, like muscular looking people. You don't want that, do you? And it's like, like maybe it would be cool to see what the potential of my physical form could be. Maybe that would have been nice to explore. Maybe that would have been good for me, to not be like sitting around and just, watching. I didn't really sit around and watch TV, but I just sat around and did like almost nothing, reading. I was reading books sometimes, but, it's just like, there's things I could have been doing, that were good for me that I never, developed as habits. And it's like, I look at that and it's like, I used to have like this, like, not like a dislike, but like a misunderstanding towards people that were athletes, et cetera. I'd always be like, they're all supporting each other. They had to, like winning at a game, like it couldn't be for themselves, and there's something valuable to that. Right. And a lot of people today, especially, don't have any resemblance of that. They don't have any, like, they are the crazy one in their group. They're eating healthy. They're doing all the right things, but all their friends think they're totally nuts. And maybe they are, maybe they are totally crazy. That's actually the lighthearted thing now. Like I have a lot of friends. Some of them are more extreme in their health journey. Some of them are less, but we can all agree that it seems absolutely absurd to do a lot of things that we're doing in the eyes of society. And it's funny, but it's not unsupported, Right. It's a big difference between it being like, support, like, I don't know how to put it. Like, I remember certain places where I lived, it was like absolutely discouraged. If you started taking care of yourself and doing better financially, mentally, whatever it is, it's like, have you seen what happens like with like crabs in a bucket? Like they like, if one crab starts to crawl out, the other ones pull them down in there. They don't want, the one to escape, unless
a lot of the time that's like within the immediate family where that happens, right? Totally. Which is the hardest.
It is very hard. It is very hard because sometimes our best family isn't our biological family, Sometimes our greatest sense of community doesn't come from the people that we came from,
Or you just have to limit your time with
Right, exactly. Like you have to find that, that's one of my intentions this year too, is like, okay, like I have a great community, I have like great people in my life. Now I want to like have like a healthy relationship with my family, because like I think if I want it, the burden's on me.
Right.
Like to create that definition, set those boundaries and make it happen because, it's hard. A lot of people struggle with it, and I actually feel like I have a great relationship with my parents, but it's like, it's not what I want it to be, It's like, that's a very tricky thing, but sometimes we need to find some sort of group of people to make us stronger, right? Absolutely. Be it friends, family, et cetera, because,
I think, did we ever go to health conferences together? Like I've been to so many, and that was some of the most fun I had, communing with people because there was just so much to relate to and to talk about. But now there's just so much drama and infighting and battles and wars that to me, they've become way less fun and not even desirable to travel to, but
I'm with you. I feel healthier going around business people because most of them are into the crazy biohacking stuff anyway, they're open-minded to it. They're excited about it. You go to these other things and then everyone's like, oh yeah, but, you use this ingredient. Oh, you use monk fruit. Oh, you're poisoning people. That's an artificial sweetener. And it's like, how much can you take? It's just like, it's like people are so convicted about what you already know they're wrong, but it's like, they're so convicted about it. And it's just like, man, it's a very strange thing.
Well, you mentioned monk fruit, so that's a good segue into your product.
yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So Yeah, I think so. Just a little background how I discovered Cacao Calm. We'd been friends for years. I was promoting your Fi Kind chocolate, the sugar-free chocolates, and loving them. I was eating them myself, and I think I was in my red wine phase, so I would like have my red wine nights and then have your chocolate, and like it was a really good mix. And then I discovered Ray P, and I started doing refined white sugar in my milk, and just not being afraid of sugar anymore. And I stopped overnight all stevia, monk fruit, xylitol, all those. And not only did I stop them, I started demonizing them because I found one study on stevia that it's like an infertility agent, which that's one study. I don't know, or it's two studies. Now I'm questioning all of that as of like a week ago, but or a couple weeks, whatever, recently. But I basically, long story short, I stopped promoting your chocolate, even though I supported you because I didn't want to promote sugar free. And then I found out that you came out with this Cacao Calm, and I didn't even tell you. I didn't ask you to send me some. I just went on your website and, I haven't tried Jonathan's product. So I ordered like 6, and I scooped it into my wood stove brewed Chaga tea because I just keep that going constantly on my wood stove. My favorite thing about winter and living off grid is the wood stove. It's just
love that.
A constant hot water ready to go, constant brewed Chaga tea 24/7. It's incredible. I mean, it's hard to recreate that on a stovetop, I think. I mean, you can with gas and like whatever. But anyway, long story short, I put a heaping tablespoon of that in with maple syrup in this really strong black Chaga tea. And I forget if it was Arctic Chaga or Vigor. I think it was Vigor chunks. And I drank that. It was like, vroom, like I felt like I like smoked a bowl, like took like Xanax, like all these things that just like brought me down, like multiple notches in my nervous system stress level. It was incredible. And I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, it's just a little, herbal blend that he made.
Just another chocolate powder, another one of those,
Right. And I'm not exaggerating just because I'm interviewing you. That was literally how I felt. It was like I was drugged, but I was still like coherent and like, my mind was clear, but I was just relaxed.
Totally, man. Yeah, that was actually really cool. I remember I was like, wait, how did you get this? Like, I didn't know you even bought it. And I was like, what? Yeah, that's so cool. And yeah, that was literally the intention for the product, right? I wanted something because like, if you're stressed, like that's the thing. If you're stressed, like, and you're like dealing with like what I was doing with like the PTSD I was dealing with, it is insanely hard to like get out of the loop of just like the neurotic behavior and the, like, I would just like sit there and like, I'd sit there on my phone for like hours or sit there on my computer for like hours and do almost nothing, because I was just stressed, I was just running from any source of doing anything. It was terrible. Right. Mm-hmm. And, I was like, all right, like I need to get my nervous system back in control because like any little thing freaks me out and I just lose it. Right. So like, that's what I literally created Cacao Calm for. I was like, the way the product was created, because like, as you know, I make chocolate. I was always a chocolate company making chocolate from whole cacao nibs and stone grinding it, making truffles, making like more confectionery luxury items. Right. And I love chocolate. I've been eating chocolate for like a decade, I just have this like tremendous attachment to chocolate. But I basically was like, man, like I need to start taking ashwagandha every single day because I know that helps me. Tons of great research on ashwagandha, of course, benefits hormones, lowers cortisol, improves response to anxiety, all that good stuff. But I was like, I need to just take ashwagandha, reishi, and maybe some other supportive herbs every single day. And I need to just like, so I literally took the herbs and put them in a cup. I was like, all right, I need to put this in everything I eat. And then I was like, how about, and then I was like, wait, let me like reverse engineer this, right? I was like, how about I just make like the most insanely good hot chocolate mix? Like that tastes really good and then add as much herbs to it as I can without screwing up the taste. So then that's what I started doing. I started researching different vanillas, I never made a powdered supplement before, right? So different types of chocolate that I'd never made before, different blends, different alkalinities, because like, some chocolate can be alkalized, right? And so I just started playing around with just like, I wanted it to be flavor. I wanted it to be good so that you wanted more of it. Like I wanted it to taste that good so that I could add, the herbs that I would just want to take it. I wanted it to be like addictive so that I would take it every day, because that was my problem. Like I literally had no discipline to take a capsule every day. I was that out of whack with my stress. I was struggling so bad to have a routine. So I was like, I need to make it like addictive, basically, at least for me. For me, I love chocolate. So anything that's like chocolatey and whatever, it's addictive to me. So, it was monk fruit and the chocolate, coconut milk powder, and then the vanilla. The vanilla is the secret. There's no company in the world using the vanilla that we're using. That's why it tastes so good. It's a Madagascar vanilla from like a, generational farm. It's like a single origin vanilla extract, not a vanilla natural flavor. Just about every protein powder mix, whatever, is using vanilla isolated, vanillin, some sort of flavoring. And that is literally the reason why mine tastes so different, because it is a true extract of Madagascar vanilla.
That's a dopamine thing, right? Vanilla?
It can be, so I don't know a whole lot about the science of it, but I do know that vanilla is one of the only plants that activate the endocannabinoid system.
Wow.
So I don't know what the effect is, what the thing, the whole thing with vanilla is, but I do know that it is like something about vanillin and the fragrance of vanilla activates the cannabinoid system, which is super cool, because we know that affects a lot of things. That can affect neurological health, gut health, et cetera, stress response. So there's something there for sure. And I couldn't really describe why cacao calm works the way it does, because it's like, part of it's a little bit alchemy, right? But, if you think about it, the other supportive herbs in there, cordyceps is good for blood flow, good for adapting to, oxygen uptake and adapting to altitude. So anything that increases your blood flow, et cetera, is going to, of course, aid in absorption of most things you're consuming, I would say. I think it's a safe way to word it. And of course, reishi mushroom, heart health, stress, immune system. Reishi is just a wonderful addition. Reishi's
it's been used for cancer too, right? Reishi.
Yeah. And it's interesting with reishi because there's many different functions in which reishi has been shown to help with cancer. A lot of them are cell studies, but it's shown that the triterpenes themselves have a direct kill effect. And then also it can help with the apoptosis. So there's like multiple different fractions in reishi, because there's the triterpenes and the beta-glucans and the polysaccharides, and all of them have some sort of play. So and modulating the immune system.
Did you used to take the spore? I think I got into the oil, reishi spore. My friend Willie said the spore oil like had like a feminizing effect. I don't know, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I doubt it. We used to order from China and like order the spore oil in tubes, and like I didn't really like it. There's something intuitively I felt like not about it. Like even the cracked spores, I eventually moved away from that. I used to spoon that stuff, like the cracked Sobol reishi spores. It tasted like chocolate. It was like this creamy, but I don't know. I think I forget what
monarch.
Yeah, well, yeah. No comment there. I don't know if whatever he was taking, I don't know. Oh man, hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, me too.
He's surviving and
healing. Crazy journey. But the type of ashwagandha you're using too, the KSM 66, that's like called like a standardized, right?
Yep. Okay. The good thing about that one is, that's where most of the studies have been done using that standardized extract. And this is a water-soluble version of that. So, of course, even more bioavailability in a drink. Because some ashwagandha extracts are just like extracts. This is like a very, it's processed in a way that makes it very, very bioavailable and very readily absorbed in water. And we looked at like, what are like the safe max doses of ashwagandha, right? Some studies suggested like upwards of 6,000 milligrams. And if you look at the dose where they start to see benefits, it was like 200 milligrams, 250 milligrams twice a day, things like that. It varied, of course, depending on what the studies were about, but it seemed like around 200 milligrams was kind of like the amount that, the benefit started. As you and I know, as extreme experimenters, like we like to try more. I kind of settled around, the heaping tablespoon of cacao calm, it has 1,000 milligrams. So it's nowhere near like the upper amount, but it's also like in a safe, it's in a safe range, but it's also like, I think that you have the ability if it's something that, you feel might be helpful, if your healthcare doctor or whatever thinks it's okay, then you can take more and it's easy, and that's kind of was the intention for me, was to make it easy, because you could take 4 capsules or you could have a delicious hot chocolate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer. And then you get, you get all the other benefits, everything else in there too.
What's the max amount of it you've taken? Like, have you taken like a tablespoon every hour? Have you megadosed it?
Man, when I was formulating it, I was taking multiple tablespoons per hour for days.
Wow.
Didn't notice anything negative. So,
wow.
Yeah,
I'll have to try
me.
that, because I've maxed out at 1, but I'm curious to take more and see what happens.
I really enjoyed taking lots of it. Yeah. And I now cycle with it, because it was an everyday thing for me for a while, for almost a year, over a year. It was an everyday thing for me. And now it's just like, it kind of feels like it's done its job for me. It's like, I feel like I'm kind of back in control, and then I take it on an as need or as enjoyed basis,
Right.
I will do little events, and I have this giant hot chocolate machine that holds like 8 gallons of hot chocolate. I'll literally just mix it with water. Like, I want people to try it as is. I know it's good in milk. I know it's good in it's like good in everything, right? Really good in half and half. If you ever tried it in half and half, like that's like a dessert. That's really, really good. But it's like, yeah, I know how like good it tastes and everything else, but the special thing about it is it's great in water, and it's great for traveling too. Like, if I'm traveling, and I don't know how people are going to react to this, the extremists are going to love this, but you can go to Starbucks, and yes, there's some cane sugar in there.
That's smart.
You can get steamed coconut milk. So then you're not getting like the bad oils, because you're just getting the coconut fat. So I'll get the steamed coconut. I think there's a gum or 2 in there, and then there's cane sugar, right?
Oh. But
it's nowhere near as bad as like the almond milk with all the other crap they add to it. I think the almond and the oat and the soy, and you go down the line, like those are probably worse. The whole milk, iffy, right? Like, if it's not organic, the hormones in there, I might, try to moderate it, and, if I know better, do better type of thing. Like, so I feel like the coconut milk is the better option, but I find it amazing, man. I'll go there and I'll get a steamed coconut milk, and then I'll add like a tablespoon or 2 of cacao calm. And then I'll just kind of like, if you're in an airport and you just have the wooden stirrer, you kind of like stir it in, let it sit for a second, and then it'll stir right in. By the time like you get to your gate, like it'll be like smooth. Like, I'm going to do that in 2 days when I go to, when I fly to Seattle. So I'm flying to Seattle and then over to Missoula. But like, nice. It's nice like that, right? So it's like, it's actually kind of enjoyable, and it's kind of a cool travel hack. And it's like, all of a sudden you have this like healthy hot chocolate you're walking around with, instead of like,
I'm going to have to try that. I had my first latte in years at Starbucks. It was in NorCal on the journey back, and it wasn't bad. I just put cane sugar in there that they had, and I felt it powered the 14-hour journey.
I never thought I'd be on a health podcast, like talking about, hey, this is pretty good, and it's not something that you should do,
right?
If you like as a regular thing, but I think
we need options because everything's not perfect all the time. It's like
that. Exactly.
We're going to be in situations. Yeah,
exactly. And we need to know how to make the right decision for the moment we're in. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think also the other thing is, and this is like the, thing that some of us are, depending on where we're at in our journey, are far removed from this concept or idea, especially not wanting to backtrack in your health. But eventually, like, I think the intention should be to get to a level with your health where you can tolerate stuff that isn't ideal.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like maybe like, I see, you'll have French fries sometimes. I do too from time to time. I had some yesterday, it's like, that was not ideal.
Yeah. But Dave Asprey says French fries are worse than smoking tobacco.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how the extreme diet is working out for Dave. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's a very interesting topic, right? A lot of these people that were hammering on anti-aging, I'm not talking about him. I'm not trying to out him specifically. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything against Dave. But I will say, like, a lot of these anti-aging folks don't look like they're aging well.
Mm-hmm. Right. I listened to 45-minute Sinclair interview last night. He's like the NMN resveratrol guy, and it's pretty fascinating to listen to for sure.
Is he doing good? Is he aging well?
I don't know. I hear he eats Twizzlers, but I mean, everyone has their bias, right?
Twizzlers, huh? I always like Red Vines more than Twizzlers myself. But that's just.
Do you want to do some rapid fire questions, Jonathan? Because I forgot we had all these. I don't know. There's probably like 50 questions because it was.
50, let's go. Let's do it.
But I mean, we won't get through. I'll just pick the best ones. But
we had a lot of like blood pressure ones.
We had a lot of like toxicity ones, and I could just lump those all together. Like, why do some not do well on ashwagandha? And then is there toxicity with adaptogens with dosing, which you already kind of mentioned a little bit, but
yeah, there are some studies on ashwagandha that they can have like negative effect on hormones too. It's like a certain percentage of people. There's like a genetic factor in some people where there can be a negative thing. I was actually talking with my friend, it's Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. He was talking about that, how with some of his, clients, patients, that they have, an issue there. So we're talking about making a version of cacao calm that maybe is ashwagandha free just for the flavor, just because it's an amazing taste, adding other herb stacks to it, because I think with everything, ashwagandha is great for most people, but there's always going to be, everything.
Right.
There's no single thing that can be universal for everyone. Just as we were talking about with diet, we cannot, in my opinion, there's no way to say, hey, this is the exact way to eat. Unless you are actually talking to the person one-on-one.
That's a good point. Yeah. I made that point with my vitamin E that I sell, because there's a genetic variant where you can actually experience inflammation if you take vitamin E, but it's like, how common is that? I don't think there's a definite way to know. It's 50% of the population. It's 80%, it's still guesswork, but you can go off your anecdotal experience with a supplement, whatever supplement. Yeah. And like you said, not every supplement's not going to be for everybody. So it's like,
yeah, I'll say something about vitamin E. Interesting fact. My last year, 2022, I lost both my grandparents on my dad's side, and they were in their late 90s, like 90, like both. My grandfather was a week away from 99. My grandmother was on her half birthday at 98. Like, they lived a long time. Like, they really did. And they both were pretty much fully cognitive function. My grandmother had like a 3-week decline, where it was like very dramatic. She just became nonverbal very quickly. So it was a little bit longer, for her. But my grandfather literally just went to sleep. Like, he had flawless memory till the last second, and he aged well. They took a lot of supplements. They took fish oil, like not a lot, but for the people that age, they were pretty disciplined about supplementation. They were taking salmon oil and multivitamins, etc. But, probably better than nothing. My grandmother, she ate blueberries every day. Like, she listened to whatever Dr. Oz said, basically, and followed it, right? It was kind of cool. But my other grandfather on my mom's side, I know he's in his late 90s, drinks, I think, vodka, like a shot of vodka every night or something like that.
Wow.
Smokes cigarettes still. And his one thing that he does, though, he's been doing it for years. He takes like 4,000 or 5,000 milligrams, something like that, of vitamin E.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He's like, vitamin E is like his miracle thing he's been taking for I think decades now.
Interesting. So, I wonder if it's hundreds of, because I think
I don't know.
The usual dose is like 400 to 800 IU.
Maybe it's IU. Yeah.
Okay. It's so dumb how they IU and milligram, because they just confused everyone going back and forth with those measures. But that's fascinating though. Yeah. It
takes a lot. I know it's like a considerable amount. It's like 5 pills. And I'm sure it's not a good quality one. Maybe we should get him some Mitolife.
Kirkland signature.
It's probably Kirkland. Yeah. Should probably get him some Mitolife, and then he can be a brand ambassador.
Right.
Elderly.
I love it. What are the easiest adaptogens to grow at home, inside or out? Did you grow adaptogens up in NorCal when you were up there? Like
I grew Tulsi. Wow. There you go. That'd be your best one. Yeah.
Wow.
And it tastes good too. It's actually
holy
nice
basil, right?
Yeah, holy basil
for the layman. Awesome. Which herbs are must-haves in your cabinet? You say everything cacao calm, or
of course it's got to be cacao calm now. Ashwagandha is big up there. Rhodiola,
ginseng.
I like ginsengs. I do like ginsengs, and they're more fun. And then I used to be a single herb person. Now I'm pretty formula. I always keep some oregano just to kind of, a little nod to your ways. I always keep some oregano around. And then Reishi is it's another one that I like to have a lot of different types of. Cat's claw. I mean, I'm kind of rattling off, but these are things I never go without. Chaga, I never go without. And then I'll, keep a few other different Chinese herbs blends around.
Have you tried that Amazonian tea, Jonathan, that Troy, it was the MLM. I thought it tasted delicious. It was the cat's claw Amazonian tea. It was like the mix of like 5 Amazon herbs. I forget the company.
Was it Purium?
No, it was before.
It was before he did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to ask him, but I kind of miss it. It was like, whoa, this is bitter. It's doing something, felt something happen.
I love cat's claw. I was for a while when I was dealing with like this viral thing. It was like a skin infection I had. Like it was weird. It's like something about moving to city water or something. I don't know. Like when I first moved away from the well, I was taking lots of cat's claw. It helped me a lot. But I was taking liposomal cat's claw from Quicksilver, and I liked that. I was taking 10 pumps a day. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rhodiola, should you cycle it or not? Someone asked.
Probably. I mean, just in my personal experience, I never could take it consistently. I'd always have to cycle. I'd probably do 5 days on, 2 days off would be pretty good. Or you could do 20, 10, something like that.
Okay. I don't know if you're willing to answer this one. How does he source his herbs? So we want the exact website. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I mean, quality and purity are always the number one thing. If it doesn't work, and it's the purest thing in the world, like there's like 0 cadmium or whatever, but it's like tastes like garbage, like you're probably not going to want it. And also like the health of the grow, it's like soil healthy, et cetera. All those things are things I look at.
Right.
And then, like I said, like with the ashwagandha, I wanted something that I knew was standardized and consistent because I wanted it to be a beneficial product. So I could use some biodynamic inconsistent extract, but I wouldn't really be doing a service to people if I did that. Right.
Right.
So but for me, organic is very important. Like pesticides, herbicides, all that stuff is very important for me to avoid it. We literally everything that we do is organic. Even in the EU, our salt could be certified organic, but it's not, USDA. So
wow.
I'm just very like every little detail to cacao calm. I'm not sure if it's even on the label, but our sea salt comes from New Zealand. It's a very, very pure salt, like much cleaner than the stuff from France, etc.
Wow. Herbs for dogs. Did you ever dose up dogs with any adaptogens?
I probably don't. I don't have a dog, so I can't really say, to be honest. I know there's stuff you can do.
You never drugged a friend's dog or anything?
I did not to my knowledge. I plead the fifth.
Let's see. What are your thoughts on maca? So someone else for hormonal stuff. I've never felt anything from it. I've taken it over the years. I never felt a thing from gelatinized, whatever.
I love maca. Maca is one of my favorites. And I think it's very beneficial. I think it depends on what I'll say this. I have gone through some cycles with maca. I stopped taking it for like a year. I started taking it again recently, noticed a profound benefit from it. And then I kind of stopped noticing anything from it in the last week. It's almost like like something I started taking like somehow canceled out or reversed. So I need to do some exploration. I've never had this before with maca. It's more personal than anything. But maca's cool. Like maca's, I think, hormone, libido, very powerful in that department, I think.
Wow.
And it also adaptability to climate. So if you get cold easily, maca and then Asian ginseng are your top. Maca, Asian ginseng, and cordyceps are probably the top things for adaptability and cold weather.
Wow. I got to mix that with my cod liver oil.
I've been doing, so my protein, my little shaker protein shake, I've been doing either plant or whey protein, right? And then I do peanut butter powder just for some, flavor. And then I'll either do the, I have the box right here. It's a certain type of maca extract. It's the Revolution Symphony Natural Health Maca Librium. It's like a super concentrated maca. I'll either do that or some gelatinized or yellow maca. And I'll just add like a tablespoon of that or like open up 2 capsules of the other stuff. And that's what I've been doing daily. But like I said, like something about the stack of whatever I'm doing, it's not like it's canceling out the maca. Because I notice when I take maca. So I need to work on some, tweak some things.
And the plant protein, did you say that was pea protein that you're using, or?
Yeah, I've been using pea protein. Yeah.
I guess the people would ask, like, why not just stick with the animal source all day? Like, do you believe that you feel good, the benefits from it, it's proven that it is a good source?
I know people that are not vegans that use plant protein for bodybuilding, and they have visible results. And they're natural, and they don't use, they're not doing, no PEDs. It's so funny. You can't say PEDs anymore without like having a little chuckle for poor Liver King, right? Honestly. But he wasn't going to say, supplements aren't all that bad, So it's like,
Yeah.
But
I did the Sun Warrior for years, and I think I was like almost an ambassador, but I don't know. I was mixing so much stuff with it that it was hard to tell what was making me bloated. So
yeah, I do get bloated on their stuff for sure. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a lot of adding the fiber has stopped any of the proteins from bloating me, but I'm not sure. Like I need to now that I've kind of went off the animal protein, like primarily, I'm going to keep that for like a week and just see. Mm-hmm. And then I'll add it, I'll start adding it back in the morning. Cause obviously to me, vanilla whey protein is one of the most delicious things. Like I love it's weird, but like just cold water and whey protein, like there's something about that taste with the sweetener in there and the artificial vanilla. Like it's like a treat to me. So
have you had the Thorne like fiber mend? Cause I like how that tastes. But
no.
Okay. That's like their fiber blend. And I forget what's in it. It's like 6 ingredients, but yeah, I've been kind of doing a little fiber shake too, but just once a day. I should probably be more consistent. Do it like twice a day at least.
Yeah, I've tried the shaker bottle thing. It's just easy. Mm-hmm. It's easy to drink out of, easy to clean.
Yeah, and I noticed too if I'm fasted, which I'm just so busy, living up here that I'm just forced to not eat for like several hours at a time a lot of the time. So like this lifestyle is like built-in intermittent fasting, but
which is
fiber
not,
drink helps. Yeah,
not necessarily a bad thing. Fiberman looks great, actually. The ingredients look good. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I think you might know the answer to this. What is the most powerful adaptogen for the gut-brain axis connection?
That's a tough one. I think it depends on the status of your gut. It could be something to help you eliminate better. Mm-hmm. It could be something it could be a prebiotic. Mm-hmm. That's a tricky one. I would say fiber is a safer option, finding a fiber that works for you. Mm-hmm. Because everybody, some people won't do well on acacia, some people won't do well on psyllium, some people need soluble, some people need insoluble. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very subjective and hard to answer one just for that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts on pine pollen and gynostema?
I love pine pollen. Pine pollen is another one of those like super powerful ones, especially if it's an extract, like a tincture. A lot of power in there. A lot of just like, hormone, libido, all that good stuff. Like it gives you a lot of juice. It really does. So I like that one. The one I've been taking lately, and there's a lot of different ones out there. Just personally, the one I went back to recently was a Survival one. I do like they have the blend, and then they have the regular one. There's others out there though. I think they're all good. It just depends. Like theirs seem to be pretty concentrated though. So I like theirs. And gynostema is good.
Spring dragon tea.
Spring dragon tea. I had some yesterday. The saponins in there are, of course, very beneficial. Very much similar to ginseng. The saponins are good for detox and hydration and all that. Soap. It's literally soap, but it's like soap that's good for you. It's naturally occurring.
What are your thoughts on testosterone boosting herbs, kind of in that same vein? And they mentioned sistanche and tonkat, Ali.
I think with any of that stuff, like you can run into depletion if you're not like balancing and like supporting your cells. Like it's much the same thing with caffeine. If you're not supporting your cells, some of these herbs can support hormones and that's good, but they can deplete in other ways. I think those are relatively safe though. I think sistanche and tonkat are pretty well safe personally. So it's just, when you start taking any of those herbs, they can create a lot of heat in the body.
Mhm.
And then you're going to need to find a way to rebalance that, depending on where you're at. If you're really depleted, that stuff might bring you right back to life. It just
Mhm.
really depends. If you're moderate and you start taking a lot of those, like, testosterone boosting, androgen, all those like herbs, then you can start, running into other issues, as a result of excess heat in the body. And that can be a problem. I run hot naturally. I kind of naturally have a lot of energy. So when I take these types of herbs, I have to be careful because I will get hot. I'll get agitated. I'll get, all the other things that happen when you take testosterone, those sorts of things.
Right. Yeah. And for those that aren't aware, that's like a Chinese medicine concept, right? Where like
Yes.
your lungs or your spleens can go too far in one direction, whether it's too much heat or too much cold.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Too damp, too dry.
Mhm.
Those are ways to, look at it. Right. And that's an Ayurvedic principle too. Like,
Mm.
heat and dampness. So I think way back when we used to have the understanding that of the elemental energies and elemental, like, repercussions of the things we consume, ginseng's hydrating, and ginseng is, but can be warming, but some ginsengs, depending on the variety, can be cooling. I love, if you need something cooling, one of my favorite things is American ginseng. And then also, chrysanthemum flowers in a tea. Be nice.
Interesting. American ginseng and chrysanthemum. Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily together, but
right. Cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start on that because I've been taking elk velvet like daily for years. And yeah, that's a pretty powerful one where you probably want to cycle that or get in some
right.
cooling herbs too.
Yeah, that one can create a lot of juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why does cacao give me palpitations?
That's a iffy one. I mean, chocolate can, for some people, it does have, the theobromine, which can, convert to caffeine. We can, and then some chocolate. I mean, our cacao calm, we got the caffeine levels. We looked at it. It's like half the caffeine of a cup of decaf coffee.
Oh, wow.
So it's like very low. However, everyone's different. I don't know if I can answer that question without knowing, about the person. I don't think it's kind of like a personal health question to me.
Mm-hmm.
But some people have them, and I don't always know why. Sometimes there's a reason, but it's just like very dependent on, you could be drinking coffee earlier in the day and you can just be overstimulating yourself. There's so many factors,
Right. Let's see. Best herb.
I rarely find people that like have raw cacao, like our chocolate bars or something like that. I know people, they might have a hard time sleeping, but the cacao calm, people are scared about it, but like, it's like, they're like, oh my God, I want to have chocolate and get, before bed. But a lot of people start their day with it and they're fine. And a lot of people, like, they believe in the herbs and they take them and they feel calm from it. So sometimes it's your perception, right?
I've had it right before bed and I knock out. So yeah. That's herbs for clearing brain fog. Any idea those?
I mean, clearing brain fog, would be detox more than anything else, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd be looking at things that, help elimination in the gut. So some sort of, maybe some formula that helps, with elimination, right? And then also a fiber blend, because you want to absorb anything that's in your gut, right? Because your gut is where your mental clarity comes from ultimately, right? But you could boost yourself. You could boost yourself with, other things. But I don't know if I'd go herbal for detox personally. Like, there are certain things, sure, like milk thistle, dandelion, the gentle kind of, teas you can have. Mm-hmm. But I think you can be safer and more controlled, more supplemental, like, glutathione and charcoal, and those kind of step out of the herb category. But I think those are probably safer and more controllable.
Are you doing any lion's mane or?
I love lion's mane, but no, I haven't been taking it. There's no reason why. I just haven't been taking it. I probably should add it to cacao calm. Why not? It's such a popular thing now, and it is great. I used to take it a lot. I just, it hasn't been on my radar for quite some time. And we were going to do it. Well, we had a lion's mane chocolate for a while in one of our boxes. So maybe we should do a lion's mane set again, just like a brain boosting truffle or something would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're going in general with the chocolates, is we're going to go for just function and benefits.
Nice.
And like, some flavor, but functioning benefits, will be what we lead with.
I love it. So yeah, you have two websites then, right? You have the Living Ratio. And then
it's just Living Ratio or cacaocalm.com or livingratio.com are kind of
okay, it's the same.
Because our chocolate is under that now, and Five-Kind we rebranded. So not everybody heard about that, but we rebranded, changed the name to Living Ratio. Sounded better. We trademarked it. General Mills didn't get in our way too bad. They apparently own Ratio. Who would know?
Wow.
Yeah, you never know that someone's allowed to have that word, but
yeah. And you were saying you might start, you might create a product with like actual sugar in it at some point, a chocolate product.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this pending maple sugar chocolate for quite some time, and I think it's time to make it actually happen. It's just been a matter of capacity, but the intention is our chocolate is kind of a monthly model now, because we're just like creating we wanted to focus on creating the best, right, rather than just like creating lots of flavors. I really like the passion behind the chocolate really comes down to limited stuff that we make, like the experiments, the projects, right? So I wanted to create a month and just keeping things fresh, keeping it interesting, right? So that's kind of where we're at, where we're doing a different flavor every month. And that's either subscription or one time we might switch to all subscription just to make things just for better quality control eventually. And then, so we have that. And our intention is to probably add a maple line. There's a very simple but really, really good maple chocolate. The best quality maple in the world, the best quality chocolate in the world, all in one. Just something good, decadent, pure. Not going to be sugar-free, but everyone will like it. If you like dark chocolate, everyone will like it.
Wow.
There's also the thought of making a milk chocolate with grass-fed milk. But that's later, much later, because then you get dairy cross-contamination and allergies and all this stuff, and
right,
then you wish that people just wouldn't be allergic to stuff.
Well, I love it. And then if people use the code Blackburn, they save, I think, on any product on your site, right?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it works for everything, and it's it's cool. It's cool to have you enjoying our stuff again, man. It's neat, because for a long time we used to eat tons of chocolate. I remember you come up to the factory sometime, and it was cool. That's the thing for me. I love chocolate. I think you probably know that about me. I just love chocolate. So anyway, I can make it good and enjoyable, and I don't know. It is certainly a passion for sure. It's a business, but it's a passion.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I'm really impressed with your journey, and it was so cool to watch, and coming back into balance from overworking and
over veganism, maybe.
Right. But yeah, this went longer than I expected. I kind of figured we had so much to talk about, and there's still, I wanted to talk about your mercury and mold experience, but you'll probably share publicly about that at some point, right?
Yeah. And if people are interested, we can always hop on again sometime. Always down to do another.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about the detox protocols.
There's a lot there. It's actually a very interesting piece, and there's a lot I'd love to talk about in this transitioning from veganism, what that whole thing looked like, right. Because both the mental and ethical and all. I'd love to get into all of that. So we could do that. That'd be kind of a fun sequel.
Be awesome, John. Well, stick around as we close out the show, and thanks. This was awesome.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, man. Good talking to you.
That is a wrap for the first show of 2023. I always learn something new when I talk with Jonathan, and I was not exaggerating with my experience with Cacao Calm. It really gave me that effect. I definitely felt a huge mellowing effect. I love it at the end of the night after a long day of working and tending to the homestead here, to mix that with Chaga tea, a really strong brew of Chaga tea. Just add a little bit of maple syrup if you like, and it's just a really incredible beverage to end the day, or midday if you're feeling overwhelmed. But so far I've only used it at the end of the night to chill out, and I sleep really well after I drink it. So go to livingratio.com. You can check out Cacao Calm as well as his keto chocolates. And we didn't talk about it, but he also has 3 different butters. So coconut butter, strawberry coconut butter, and cherry almond butter, which if you're into making desserts, then those could be fun to use. And if you use the code Blackburn on his website, you'll save 10% on all of the products there. And if you want to check out all of my recommended products and my CLF protocol, you can go to matt-blackburn.com. I haven't added any new products to the website lately because I was one of the ones that got stuck in the Southwest Airlines Christmas debacle. So that was a fun 23 hours of driving, not all at once, but over the Christmas trip there and back. And it was a challenge to even find a rental car. It was really wild there in California. It's interesting that the story that was being told publicly was different than what they were telling you at the gate. Waiting at the gate, it was a staffing issue, but publicly, it was a weather issue. So that was part of the frustration, is it seemed like there was some deception going on with the airline. And then later I learned that it could have been a jab issue with the people working at the airlines that didn't want to get the mandated jab. And so that was part of the staffing issue, and then computer issues. Who knows what it was? There's a million ideas out there. I just know that it definitely worked my nervous system and put it to the maximum test, having to find Ubers and hotels and going to 5 different rental car places. It was quite the experience. And I think a few years ago, before taking the Mitolife supplements that I sell, I probably wouldn't have been able to handle it. But getting all of my vitamins, both fat soluble and water soluble. So in the fat soluble category, you have your A, D, E, and K. I like getting my A and D from Rosita cod liver oil, my vitamin E from my PUFA Protect product, and vitamin K2 from my Purely K product. And then a good B complex. I like Lifeblood, and a vitamin C product. I like my Mitolife vitamin C that has polyphenols in there. And especially when I'm traveling, when I'm around people that seem to have a compromised immune system, I up my dose regardless, whether it's increased EMF exposure, being on a plane, in a metal tube with a whole lot of devices, or in an airport. Whenever I'm in a population dense area, I always up my ascorbic acid intake. And that is another word for vitamin C. They're synonymous. My strategy is popping 4 at a time. That might be too much for some people. That's 1.2 grams or 1,200 milligrams. A lot of people will just take 2 capsules, which I think is better than nothing. And I think if that is a consistent dose, that is, you don't just take that once a day, but you take it in small divided doses throughout the entire day, that can be beneficial as well. I've been really blown away with being consistent with ascorbic acid and the effect that it's had on my stress levels, my energy levels. I just feel so much more balanced overall. And that's because it's acting on our redox system. It's a redox balancer more than just an antioxidant. And that's something that I've been viscerally feeling being consistent with it. So you can check out that product and all of the others at mitolife.co. I put a ton of time and research into coming out with these products. I didn't just willy-nilly pick different ingredients that I wanted to come out with. These are things that have really affected my life and the life of people around me. And I have kind of a creed or belief system around supplements. And that is, don't put the whole kitchen sink into a supplement. A lot of the supplement brands out there are putting so many ingredients in each product, often 20, 30, 40 ingredients, often in a liposomal pump form. That's very common. And I think that's just too much at once for the body. I like between 1 and 4 or 5 ingredients, somewhere in there max. I think anything more than that is really overkill. So you'll notice a lot of the Mitolife supplements are just single ingredients, and I might change that in the future and complicate things and make more complex formulas. But for now, a lot of people are just enjoying the simplicity and being able to really control the dose and know the effect that you're getting from the different supplements instead of just throwing the whole kitchen sink down your gullet and you're not sure what's doing what. So I have some really exciting shows lined up for you in January, and I'll be restarting up the Mitolife Academy this month on YouTube. It was really nice to have the vacation, a whole month of December off. I really needed that. I think it's easy for everyone to get their face glued to their screen, and you almost start to see this fake digital world as reality, and you start believing everything that you see and hear on the internet, and it becomes this really dangerous fantasy world where you can't tell truth from fiction. And that's only going to become more intense as artificial intelligence rolls out. We already have deep fake and face swap. If you look up Keanu Reeves, deep fake, and some of these actors, it's getting really freaky how you can make them say anything. So although the future seems pretty scary, I'm mostly excited about it. If anything, it will be interesting. And the best thing we could do is just take it one step at a time, do our best to predict the future, set ourselves up as well as we can. I don't think everybody has to go fully off grid like I've done, but you can definitely fortify your body with proper nutrition and strategic supplementation. And I think that builds mental and emotional resilience to be able to handle whatever is to come. So I will see you guys next Friday. Stay supercharged.